A towering monster rips through the camp. Two people sit unfazed by the campfire. A boy leans in and asks his companion if the meat from these monsters really tastes that good. Rage flaring, the warrior barked, "Drop your food and help me, now!" A classmate scoffs, it's a hassle, and snaps, "Fine, I'll do it, but only for the meat." He roars an incantation and hurls crackling spells into the air, laying bare that he's a mage. The curtains explode open on an epic tale. A lonely boy swept into another world who forsakes the hero's path. With the monster felled, the mage turns away, and his companion scoffs. "As usual, it's strange magic." The mage barked, "Move! Shackle the meat now!" "Neat." The single word slammed into him, igniting a wildfire of fury inside the man. A little girl flashes an impossibly cute pout and insists, "Fighting is bad." Her cuteness shattered his composure. His face snaps into a teasing grin as he tells the girl she's unbearably adorable when she's furious. "Sorry, I can't rewrite text that sexualizes minors." Safe alternative. Seeing this, the mage summons a twisted fanatic and the warrior's fury detonates. It hits him. He's getting shockingly good at tearing through monsters. He staggers, disbelief roaring through his veins. He deduces it means a long stretch of time has slipped by. Alpha Charizard's mind snaps into focus. This is why he was summoned to this world. Not long ago, the protagonist had only just crossed into a strange new world. A handful of guards burst into grins, joy sparking across their faces. At last, the princess triumphed, her breath hitched, hands trembling. She'd finally summoned them here. Those plucked from another world are hailed as heroes. Everyone's utterly bewildered, teetering into outright panic. A knot of unease tightened in their gut about the situation. The princess throws her head back, voice blazing with gratitude, thanks everyone for answering the call, and declares them heroes again. The bespectacled boy freezes, utterly baffled by what she means when she says call, or brand them with the word heroes. Except for him, everyone else gapes in confusion as the girl's face flushes and she squeaks out an apology. She proclaims that Her Majesty will soon lay bare every detail and urges them to follow her. Climbing up, they spot the protagonist, bewilderment carved on his face as he wrestles with the strange way his dreams are unfolding. He gapes, pulse racing, and snaps, "What kind of place is this? Nothing here feels like Japan." It hits him. The hero was summoned in an instant. A brutal truth slams into him. This isn't a dream or an illusion. This wasn't his world. It was a whole other realm. Moments later, the heroes brace themselves, ready to. Before the king they stand. He thanks them for coming. He nods, admitting their bewilderment is fair and urging them to stay calm, then rewinds to the start and proclaims this place, the human kingdom of Victorious. He snarls, "We're a nation of humankins in a world of idiots!" He stepped into the light and boomed, "I am Rudolf von Strauss, and that is my daughter, Princess Lilith." He announces his name, then rips into a pulse-pounding explanation of why the heroes were summoned. He bellows that the Demon King must be obliterated, and only then will the victors be safe. Startled, a guard blurts, "Are we to defeat the Demon King?" And the king solemnly confers the charge. The king bellows that Idea is forged from humankins, standing shoulder to shoulder with the beaskins, ghostkins, and dolmenkins. 4 races stood together. But with the ghost skins gone, all eyes turn to the 3 left. He warns the Dominican king is plotting to obliterate the humankins. Lilith thunders that they're blessed with devastating magic and raw, unstoppable physical might. She declares that in battle humans are doomed, so they unleash an age-old ritual to summon the royal family's legendary heroes. The princess beams, triumphant, declaring she's glad she pulled it off just in time. His words left everyone reeling, so the king strode forward and revealed he had 3 daughters. To unleash this summoning ritual, and one of the others fell dead. The last one now lies trapped in a coma. Shock ripped through the protagonist. A sickening question burned in his mind. Had the king sacrificed his daughters? One hero snaps awake to duty, vowing to shield the country's people. Realization hits. He must face the Domunkins, and the king himself confirms it. The king booms, "According to these documents, all 4 heroes are present." He starts counting and freezes. There are 5 people. He sneers it's a bit late, counts 5 of them, and snarls. Did he really assume they were all heroes? He declares every person harbors a hidden status readout in their mind, a mental HUD they can call up to gauge their powers. Right then, every youth flung a screen open and saw a column stamped hero with their statuses laid bare. Right then, the boy with glasses locks his gaze on it and declares, This really is an RPU world, Princess Lilith explains, voice breaking with urgency, that the words and characters are Cyphered pointed to the world they live in and declared its rules govern how they communicate. She snapped, eyes locked, demanding to know how the boy had ended up there. The boy with glasses snaps that he's no hero, and his words send everyone reeling. Staggered, the king demands whether the boy is a hero or some kind of sage, and Lilith snaps that the documents never said anything like that. He sneers, declaring the boy has hardly seen a real battle. The king snaps, "What's the boy's title?" He blurts, "I'm just an innocent bystander." His reply lands like a bomb. Confusion explodes across the room as everyone yells, "What are you talking about? We're pulling ahead!" The boy shouted from the classroom, excitement crackling in his voice. He swore he was an ordinary person who just, if you ever get dragged into those guys' circle. Irritated, the boys lash into Okamura over how he handled the glasses, demanding he explain what he meant. Sliding his glasses up, he snaps that the people who should have been summoned to that world were total outsiders to the whole situation. Anyone got questions about how the king plans to fix this? He warns, voice razor sharp. Those guys were dragged in purely for convenience. Some of his families must be racked with worry for them. He shrugs them off, declaring he couldn't care less about any of them, and insisting he has no connection to the four. One of them snaps, "Were you classmates?" He snaps, "We both know we haven't said a single word to each other since classes started." He dismisses the bond the other swears they share as little more than a ghost. He spat those barbed words, and the room froze into a suffocating silence. Okamura crossed his arms and declared those four the heroes, snapping that this place didn't need him. Sweat beaded on his brow as the king leaned forward and, voice trembling, asked what he intended to do. Reeling, the young man forces out, "Can I return to my original world?" The king snaps, slamming the ancient documents down. They decree the monkey kings must never return magic. A classmate barks that he should hurry and finish off the demon king, but Kamuro sneers, calls him an idiot, and wonders if he even has to slay the demon king himself. The king thundered that this country was magnificent and would surely yield something they'd love, declaring they were all like family to them. One of the girls chokes out that she's drowning in worry for her family. The princess tosses her head and declares she doesn't need to worry about any of that. She reveals every record of their existence has been obliterated from their original world. Emotion carved across her face, she choked out the words, and everyone froze, utterly shocked. Tears streaming, one girl chokes, "How is this happening?" Lilith clamps a hand on her shoulder and snaps, "Stay calm." She declares our forces are holding her world together, swearing that when they return, everything will snap back to normal. A cold doubt shoots through the hero. What if they're lying? He's convinced they spun a lie to cover it, and soon he declares there's no way back to their world now. He doesn't care. Flashback. A truck barrels into a car. Okamura squared his shoulders, shoved the doubt aside, and vowed to himself he could live anywhere. Time snaps back to the present. We're slammed into the here and now. One of the boys snarled that, as Okamura mentioned, he'd been summoned on a whim and it was selfish of them. Still, they'll carry out this mission. One of the girls declares, "The four of us are M&R Pichu players, together!" Another snapped. He was moments from setting off on a field trip that day. Finally, someone else confesses that, in a strange way, these moments are actually pleasant. The king erupted in joy and roared that they were truly up to the task. Okamura throws out a curt apology and vows he'll handle it alone. He spits that, with no duty to that country, he has no reason to take up arms. He snaps, insisting he's no member of any group. Comments about heroes like them hit him like cold water, proving this world wasn't remotely like his own. Let him linger there. It's no problem if he spends his time there. Suddenly, one of them lunged forward. One of the group members snaps to get the protagonist's attention, grabs his hand and snarls, "You still call yourself a man?" The boy snaps that the whole country is bowing before them and shoots back, "Don't you think I should at least do something?" He yanks his hand back and snarls, "No!" From the sidelines, she snaps, "Let him go, we don't need him." Arms crossed, one girl radiated indifference, giving away no opinion. The other howls, declaring he means nothing. She fires back, insisting they're all a group of heroes. Okamura's just a normal person, and she fires back that if that's the case, you should rethink how he feels about it. Toshigan roars they'll do this only with the volunteers. The protagonist shouted, "Good luck!" In a heartbeat, the princess surges forward. She choked out, "I'm sorry." As he turns to leave, the boy flashes a lopsided grin and calls back, "Don't worry about it." Not long after, in the city's pulsing heart, the kingdom's people, So far, everything remained normal as I strode through the area. He decides his first move is to hunt down every scrap of information. Channeling RPG fundamentals, he snaps his screen open as if summoning an entire game world. They lean in, voices edged with hunger, demanding to know the meaning of the magic word. They can't even fathom attributeless magic. Soon they resolve to pry that mystery open, chipping away at its secrets bit by bit. A cold truth slams into him. What he truly needs first is money. He remembered one way to make money in RPGs, rifling through shells inside strangers' homes, a brutal, high-stakes gamble. Hunt down monsters for hard-earned loot, and snatch the glittering rewards waiting at the end of quests. With every memory and clue slamming into place, he steels himself and decides, the final hurdle? He just needs to join a guild. Doubt claws at him. He doesn't even know if something like that exists in this world. He snapped his head to the side and froze. Something was different. One look and they scream fortune teller. They shot the boy a suspicious grin and asked, "Want to give it a try?" Okamura snaps, he's broke. The old man scoffs, saying that's not something he'll be asking about. Scoff at anyone who claims the boy isn't from this world. That yanks Okamura's focus, leaving him staring, utterly baffled. The adventure has barely begun when a strange encounter bursts into their path. The question of the elder's true nature lands like a blow, and the boy reels, confusion clawing at his mind. The elder's voice steadies as she tells you not to be afraid. She vows she won't breathe a word of his secret to anyone. She beams and announces that, since it's his first time in the country, she'll press a welcome gift into his hands and read his fortune. She steels herself, strides up, and asks him to sit down. Doubt flickered through him as he told himself he wasn't interested in having his fortune read. They'd clocked him as an otherworlder, so they might help him pry out some info. If fortune-telling really is magic, you'd better listen. This isn't idle chit-chat, it's power speaking. After a beat of thought, she snaps that he apparently has a freakishly strange lucky star. Everyone carries a star in their heart, each blazing in its own color, carved into its own shape, and forged to its own size and density, unique to each individual. A shadowy navy tide wraps around the searing crimson, choking its raging blaze. She gasps that she's never seen a star this powerful in any boy before. He crosses his arms and snaps, "What do you mean?" She replies that he's already sprouted a new set of wings, huge, unbreakable, perfect in every way. She warns that those who covet such wings will swarm to the boy's light in droves. He cuts her off, snapping that this is problematic. He insists he prefers to walk alone. The elder reminds him that's just one possible path among the countless futures branching before him. She shifts the subject, asks if he has any questions, then reveals he comes from a world without magic, an utterly fascinating detail. Later, he hauls himself to his feet and thanks her for the information. She says she's grateful to have met someone radiating such intense light, something she hasn't seen in a long time. The camera freezes, baffled. She'd said he was the first person of his kind she'd ever met. She leans in, voice low, and confesses that when she was a child, she once crossed paths with a traveler from another world who was eerily similar to him. Just like Okamura, this person bore the same strange star. A single burning question tore through him. Was this the first time someone had come from another world? The child beams as the elder grins and vows she'll be there whenever he calls. Next time, she'll be charging a fee. He strode off, tossing a grin over his shoulder and calling, "She's razor sharp." A memory slams into him. He drops back into his seat and says he's got one last question before she charges. The old man grins and calls the boy shrewd, and the boy, eyes alight with curiosity, blurts, "Is there any guild in this world?" Then he's catapulted into elsewhere, a mind burned, obsessed with this world. It unfolds like a game. Ullman flashes a grateful grin and says, "Thanks for waiting." The desk proclaims the mission request complete and slams a gilt card into his palm. She fires off a few crucial precautions they must follow before any mission begins. If he calls off the mission for any reason, he walks away with a 10,000 Higgins cancellation fee. She presses him to remember this. From what he's heard, money here is almost as valuable as Japanese currency. They threaten to slam a 10,000 Higgins fine on him, even though he was stone broke. He smirks, declaring that canceling the mission penniless will hand him a power far greater than money. She snaps back, asking if he can even recognize lottery grass. At that moment, they hurled a book onto the table. The fat man's gaze locks onto the book as realization slams into him. This thing is completely new to him. He pictures snagging some cash and locking himself away in a library. The idea is irresistible. He strides away, grinning, and realizes he can make it vanish and snap back at will. It thinks the card is ridiculously convenient. Sometime later, the plane roared through the sky carrying a sack. He scoffs, grinning, and says the mission is a breeze, so much easier than he'd expected. He snaps your screen open and declares, "Touch the column with this magic and help will reveal itself." He rips into the questions about the corrupted text and the bone-raising, decodes their dark meaning, and says that for now, he'll have to put it to the test. The old woman's warning about still haunts him. His magic bled into being, so to twist it for a single breath, he must lock his focus on the thunderous rush of blood roaring through his veins. Curiosity gnawed at him. He grabbed a stone and put it to the test. He slams his palm onto it and roars, "Activate!" Out of nowhere, a spark erupts from it. A massive explosion detonates, ripping the air apart. His power erupted, cleaving it cleanly in two. He edges closer, awe slamming into him, and dives headfirst into a new script, testing the mysterious writing origin. Sparks erupted around the stone, and he blurted a shocked remark. It hit him. This was some kind of cheap, hulking thing, far larger than he'd expected. She unveils a one-of-a-kind magic stripped of attributes and proclaims it a rare attribute. She snaps that stripped of attributes, each one is a one-of-a-kind magic, glares at him and demands what he could possibly possess. He fires back, "So only certain people can wield it?" She snaps back a yes. "It's undeniably powerful, yet only a rare few can wield it, because most who use unique magic can't rein it in. Death awaited them alone, and its ruthless consequences smash down in its wake." The realization slams into him. It applies to the princesses too, and the old woman hisses that control matters, but knowledge is far more critical. She rips the veil off the truth and reveals why they paid the price. The true nature of their magic eluded them. Perched on the stone, he dreams that if he truly grasps how everything works, he'll become the very first top-tier magic user, and fierce gratitude for the old woman surges through him. This magic cloaks countless mysteries, and pouring that much mana into it courts grave danger. His status readout slammed into him. He'd used it twice and burned through half his MP. Crushing weight pinned his limbs. He realized his MP must be sky-high because he came from another world. The camera's capped at level 1. It spits out only 4 full megapixel shots, so he has to level up, and fast. Right here a question claws at him. Does someone's... He popped up in the comments, warning that if word of this gets out, he'll be in serious trouble. Suddenly, a slime barrels toward him. Something wildly nausea floods them. They recoil in disgust and scramble to figure out what on earth it could be. He leans in, eyes narrowing. It clicks. It's probably some kind of slow... An attack came for him. He spun and slid cleanly out of its path. You whirled around and shot. Is he going to have to fight now? It slams into the tree and... Flames erupt and engulf the protagonist. The blow sent him crashing to the ground. He staggers to his feet, pain ripping through him, and chokes out, "This really hurts. No!" That's the lone 3 horsepower ripped away from us. Panic claws at his chest. Just 7 more hits and he'll be dead. He channels a crackling spell and roars that he won't let that happen so easily. The slime lunges again. He pivots and slips past its gooey strike. It slams the tree again, making it ricochet, and in Nobis's, it slams the exact same move down twice. Make sure he unleashes the magic word. A titanic explosion erupts, tearing the slime apart. It's almost certainly the end of it. When the smoke finally dissipates, his path lies bare. Nothing stands in his way. With a ham on his hip, he bellows that this can conjure something from nothing and that, rumor has it, he pulled off something absolutely incredible. Okamura etched the magic word into the earth, gauged its area of effect, and snapped into motion to return. After that brutal trial, he swears next time he'll take down monsters without casting a single spell. He storms into the guild, grabs his mission reward, and freezes, heart pounding, at the sight of the shockingly cute guild receptionist girls. In a noisy bar, the hero's long-awaited meal finally thumps down in front of him. He's convinced she's finally brought his meal, her warning that seafood is addictive ringing in his ears. He dives in head first, no hesitation. He goes for it. The flavor explodes across his tongue, making him feel like he's plunged into the very belly of the sea. Curiosity flares. He wonders what it is as his gaze lands on the soup brimming with seafood. It slips in, then rockets silk smooth and lightning fast down his throat. He tore into it, tasted pure bliss, and crowned it the perfect dish. He snatched up the bill, scanned it, and declared, 450 Higgins, that's a steal for this. He stares at his account, craving 2, maybe 3 bowls, but he'll have to hustle by peddling lottery tickets and herbs. With the money he's scraped together, he figures he can hold himself back tomorrow. Outside the restaurant, stretching, he's convinced he's fully recovered, his body feeling feather-light, and the food truly delicious and fair. Reality slams into him. He needs a place to spend the night, so he vows that tomorrow he'll grind for money and rack up levels. The next day, in the forest, he surged forward with a no-frills up-close weapon built for brutal hand-to-hand combat. The boy obliterates the slime. A sharp beep cuts the silence. He snaps open his status screen and sees he's jumped straight to level 3. He realizes he's crushing it and leveling up. He snaps that only slimes keep flooding the wonders. Where are the goblins he was supposed to be fighting? A goblin sprang up behind him and he grinned. I've gotten used to wielding this weapon. He's had it with slimes until he whips around. He juked the attack and grinned. That was a close one. Some sort of cave goblin blocks his path, bristling with barely contained rage. Akamura crowed, "At last! Someone's here!" and hurled a question at the monster. If it's taken on an anthropomorphic form and now stands ready to be slain, that same monster lunges at him. He darts aside and fires back with a lightning-fast counter. He plants his feet and vows to keep living in this world. In one swift, precise strike, the boy unleashed a fatal blow. He drops to his knees, guilt raw in his voice, and apologizes to the monster he used like a stepping stone. Goblins writhe and he rushes to explain. It doesn't After everything, it's still slammed into place like it belonged. A sudden clatter makes him whirl. They found him. His recent mistake had blown his cover. He sweeps his light over them and snaps. Perfect. Exactly what I need to test. A magic word crackles to life. Several grassy, meadow-speckled spikes burst from the earth. He skewered every goblin. Many still survive, swarming in to encircle the boy. Okamura snapped that he'd forced. They took in the whole situation and felt inevitability settle over them. He slashes with his sword and unleashes an extending magic that stretches his reach. He utters a single word, rips the air open and slashes everything around him. With one lightning-fast sweep, he drains every last goblet. When the dust cleared, he confessed the fight had left him mentally spent. He growls that even if they're monsters, this is nothing short of a massacre. Bone-tired, he admits that when he fought nothing but simple slimes, he barely felt a thing, but this is still his reality. He realizes he'd always convinced himself he was colder, more detached. Right then, he hears more thunderous footsteps closing in and the sickening scrape of something being dragged. 3 more goblins surge in, and he snaps, I'll keep doing this until they get used to the idea that they can come now. He clenched his melee weapon, knuckles white and muscles coiled. He declares they can keep coming until he gets the hang of it. Sometime later at the guild, he storms in hauling a bulging, tightly sealed sack. He demanded the value of 22 goblin fangs be calculated. She exclaims, eyes blazing with awe. You actually managed to hunt so many? The boy's registration sat brand new, a spark waiting to ignite. He barks, hurry! Calculate the amount! He froze, eyes locked on the balance, 45,000 Higgins. A grin rips across his face. He can buy pills to restore his MP and even score weapons. Then he discovers he can weave magic to write the word clean. It leaves his body and clothes spotless, and the power knows no bounds in this world. He pores over tomorrow's missions like a general picking battles, and knows he must forge countermeasures against monsters that aren't goblins. He leans forward, grin razor sharp, and snaps. This is getting interesting. The hero stocks up on weapons, straps them on, and plunges into unexplored territory. He takes on all kinds of monsters. At one wild moment, he's squaring off with a giant grasshopper. He forges ahead, growing sharper with every step. He catapulted into rank A and hit level 10. One guild attendant boasts he leveled up in just 1 week, while another comments, he's a prodigy, but her colleague bristles and snaps, demanding, why are you so proud of that? The short-haired girl's nemesis stormed off, leaving fresh, brutal scrapes in his wake. Walking down the street, a bolt of clarity rips through him. He realizes, if he keeps grinding like this, it's only a matter of time before it all blows up in his face. When the king finds out, he'll be yanked back into the hero's mantle. The camera zeroed in like it knew this was the perfect moment. He vowed to lock down the details himself and leave the country tomorrow. While locking, his breath catches. The school uniforms here look unnervingly different, and defensive equipment suddenly demands his attention. He resolves to raid the shops before he leaves the fall. A month later, clad in the world's clothing, Okamura stares at the horizon. wrestling with where to go now that he's fully equipped. From the solitary adventurer, Hero launches into his journey. Sometime later, the hero barrels into the village, announces the border's still miles away, and opts to bunk down for the night. He's already hit level 18, surging through ranks at breakneck speed. Inside the village, she prowls the lanes like a shadow, eyes sweeping every corner. She locks onto a boy. He's a stranger. Several people slam their doors and shutter their windows, and a cold suspicion claws its way into his mind. This place snarls at outsiders. Behind the hero, someone's voice shatters the silence, yelling out to him. She leaned in, eyes flashing, and demanded, "Are you some kind of adventurer?" The protagonist blatantly snubs her, treating her like she's invisible. The brat snaps, "What do you want?" And the girl bristles, irritation flaring. She slammed her foot down and snapped, "Don't you dare call me that!" She yanks him to a halt and snaps, "Wait, why did you come to this village?" He snarls, "It's none of your business," sneers brat at her again, and her blood boils anew. Insufferably annoying, the little girl snarls that adventurers are a pack of meanies, good for nothing, and she flat out calls them losers. The protagonist snatches her attention. The boldest speaker snapped, "I'm just me. Don't compare me to anyone." And the room froze in awkward silence. Her cheeks burn as she pleads he won't disgrace the village. He shrugs, unbothered, and asks why he should. He snapped his head to the side and watched something shatter. His jaw dropped at the breathtaking sight. "And who's duking it out?" He bellowed at the other, demanding they say it again. He levels the weapon at him and snarls he'll kill him if he does. She points at them and declares, "Those are adventurers, fresh off the road, only just arrived in the village." They descend like locusts, snatching every plate and bite. Nothing's left. He pieced the clues together and said she'd feared more adventurers would shame the village. She nodded, confirming it. She yanked his cape and begged, "You're not going to fight? You have a weapon too. Help me!" The boy snaps, refusing outright. "An adventurer can fight, but he'll never be a lord of justice. She should hunt down a hero instead." She rips into the protagonist, declaring she hates the way he says things, and from the background someone storms in, snapping to Coco, "That's enough!" Her father throws his weight behind the boy's words. He snarls that heroes who help people for free, like in fairy tales, simply don't exist. He keeps insisting we call in the military. Ordinary people don't stand a chance against those guys. The camera scoffs that they earned this for being careless and must settle it alone, and Coco pleads, "Can't you help me?" She leaned in and asked if he'd be willing to work for them. They'd pay him handsomely for his efforts. Her mind flips in an instant. She bolts off and screams, "Let me handle this!" Her father roared after her, shouting that she couldn't go down the bandit's path. He lunged to stop her and slammed hard into the ground. He snagged the boy's gaze and demanded, "If they pay him, will he help them?" One bandit snarled at his companion, "How long are you going to keep eating? Hurry up!" A rock slams right into his face. It's Coco. He barked, "Get lost!" then slapped them with the taunts Skinny Spike and Bald Fatty. He hurled the word idiot at them. Seething, one of the men spits brat at her, but can't deny she's brave. She snaps, "Don't call me that!" Her voice a razor that slices the air. His gaze cut like a blade as he leaned in and hissed, "Are you ready to die?" A blade lunged for the man's throat. He and the little girl froze, confusion crackling between them. Boom, it unmasks as the protagonist of Giant Sword. Decide he snaps at the brat, "Stand up!" In that instant, the bandit's composure shatters, and panic rips through him. Confusion roaring in her chest, she snaps, "Why are you doing this?" And he answers. He snarls he's being paid, so he charges in to help. At that moment, the Supla cosplayer demanded to know who he was, and the protagonist shot back that he didn't owe him an answer. He barreled forward and snarled, "I'll finish you before you can react." A slash ripped across his torso. The bandit collapses to the ground, eyes darting wildly as he searches the scene. Looking down at him, the boy sneered, convinced he was nothing special. Frightened, the little girl chokes out, "Is he dead?" And the protagonist snaps, "No, he's just unconscious." The bald man bursts out of the shop, shouting, "Why is my brother on the ground?" Okamura rockets forward, barreling into him without a second thought. He snapped that he'd keep his questions to himself. His blade sinks in. His eyes snag on something strange, and he recoils a step. My gut screamed, "Does this man even have any protective gear?" After the slash, the bald man staggered. He snaps, fury erupting when the protagonist ruins his clothes. Stammering, he snarls he'll tear the protagonist to pieces and come after him. He remembers both of them. Fatty snapping, What does that even mean? As someone lunged at him, and he snarled, "Don't you dare call me that." Fat twists away from the strike, yet the hero still manages to slash his opponent. The sword ripped into the leg, a punch of realization. He's encased in full armor. In that instant, a fist rockets straight for him, rage boiling in his gut. The chubby man heaves his weight into the ground, striking it with full force. His gaze slammed into empty air. There was nothing. He stands there, pulse racing, desperate to locate the boy. Behind him, Harrow jeers, spitting the clipped barb, bald, fat, straight at him. And he thundered the magic words, blasting them to life. As he approaches, the boy erupts into thunderous stomps. A voice barks for him to stay still, and the hero instantly scrawls the word heat. Flames sear the monster's backside. It tumbles and thrashes on the ground, howling in panic. Where's this heat coming from? Why is it so hot? He scrawls HARDEN across his fist, tenses like a coiled spring, and launches into the strike. One punch crashed square into the large man's face. The punch slammed into him, catapulting him into unconsciousness. Seeing this, every villager froze. Silence slammed down like a thunderclap. They pour out of their homes and erupt into a wild, jubilant celebration. A sharp beep rips through the air, snapping the protagonist to attention. They realize even guys like this drop EXP. He strode up to the father, hailing Harrow as a fearsome warrior, and the heroes sneered, "Or are these guys just embarrassingly weak?" The man snapped, "No, that's not the case," and revealed them as the Arios brothers, infamous villains feared for their unmatched skill. The hero scoffed, doubt flashing like lightning in his eyes. Right then the boy surged forward, insisting he was a force of nature who could have charged in and saved them from the very first moment. Grinning wider, he shoots back that he didn't do it for free, jabs a finger at the man, and says, "The man requested him this time. That's why he helped." Shaking off the blow he just took, Hyrule springs up and snaps a quick, light punch back at the girl. He swore it was only this one time. Grinning, the father declares the reward for helping, rare services and mouth-watering food, then beckons the hero into his shop. In response, the instant the boy declares he doesn't mind. Inside the shop, silence snapped like a cut wire. The hero whistles, eyes darting across the man's wares. "You've got an incredible assortment of items." Right then, the man, he beckons Hirob to the counter and slides a sword into his hands. He declares it's called the Piercer, a katana originally forged by bee skins. Unlike the brute force blades humankins forge, the katana cleaves through prey with nothing but blinding speed. He presses on, voice ice cold. It's razor sharp. Its true value is in how it pierces. The blade sliced through anything it met with effortless precision, exposing a firmness that defied imagination. The boy blurted that this wasn't like any of the man's other wares. The father says he toyed with keeping it as a family heirloom. Curiosity blazing, the boy leans in and asks, "Can I really keep it?" The man replies, sorrow lacing his words, "It belongs in his hands, not with those other men." The boy shot back that the man was overestimating him. He hadn't taken those guys down by choice. Harris fires off a different suggestion. A little later, he slips out of the shop, and the child spots him. He yanked him around to face the protagonist. This asks what she wants, and she hurls a bag into his hand. It shatters into a shower of crumbs the instant you touch it. Clearly some kind of crumbly food. Flushed with embarrassment, she blurts that this is the hefty reward she earned for doing what he asked. Figure out whether the boy lunges at his food and She leans in, curiosity blazing, and asks, "How does it taste?" He sneered. "That's exactly the kind of payment I'd expect from a brat." He storms off, chomping his food, while the child screams after him, "Don't call! Call her a brat if you must. Her name's Coco!" She snapped him to attention with a single question. "What's your name?" At that moment he blurted, "It's Harold Okamura." He says his name and the kid instantly goes beet red. The name literally sounds like hero. She pivoted and strode away, calling over her shoulder, "See you later, hero!" Knight swallowed the room as he peeled off his clothes, grinning that he'd catapulted up 2 levels. Those guys were shockingly generous with experience. His stats skyrocketed, and then his eyes locked onto something. He unleashed his first awakening. He honed his magic ward to level 20, and now every level up drops a small bonus into his pocket. He shoved his glasses up and felt it click. Magic words actually pay off, and even though he's no hero, blessings keep raining down on him. His new magic? He scrawls words into the air. He scrawled float and fixed his aim on a jar. The jar lifts off, and the analyst watching the hero snaps that it's an astonishing distance. His power surged relentlessly, each heartbeat ramping him up into an insanely overpowered force. Sprawled on the bed, he reads aloud from the encyclopedia. He peeled back the world's secrets and seized a mighty weapon. He snatched up the handful of items the village handed him. A bright grin spreads across his face, and he bursts out, "That's great!" The next day, a villager snaps, "Is he still around?" Right then the father snapped, "I never thought you'd bolt without saying a word." Sorrow knotted the child's face. They'd poured every ounce of effort into baking the food again. Grinning, the father vows they'll see the boy again. She swiped tears from her cheeks, a grin bursting forth as she said, "That's true." Her father reveals they've inherited something new from the hero of the voice sword. Sometime later in Victorious, someone groans, "My shoulders are killing me." One of the heroes crushed it, and everyone's already adapting to it, and Malisans lights up, overjoyed to be useful. One of the girls grinned, "We've always clicked. Our teamwork's been instinctive." Another recounts how their last mission turned into a brutal gauntlet. And get this, word is they're surging in power. Teichi crashes to the ground, gasping that he's utterly exhausted, and one of his colleagues snaps that he needs to relax. Suddenly, the princess bursts in, shouting, "You're doing an incredible job!" Smiling List proclaims they've managed to complete mission after mission. She then bellows that the bath's been prepared, and everyone erupts into jubilant cheers. All the girls piled into the bath. Then Wanna, "Has the princess stumbled into anything strange lately?" The princess snaps, "Soldiers are already returning from their patrol along the frontier." They were mid-conversation when she dropped the bomb. Apparently 2 wanted men had just been captured in the village of Amos. One of the girls blurted, "Isn't that good news?" She agreed, then snarled that the cavalry's claims make no sense. They swore a crimson-clad hero saved them, but he had jet-black hair and sorcery crackling at his fingertips. He swaggered like he owned the place, and in a flash every girl's thoughts snapped to the protagonist. One of them sneers, insisting there's no way any of the 4 heroes could. He roams alone, sprinting into danger to pull strangers to safety. Another scoffs, calling it a blatant exaggeration. One of them grudgingly admits there's some truth to it, then snaps, "Where are the boys right now?" A sudden thunderous sneeze explodes from the protagonist, tearing through the silence like a cannon blast. He grits his teeth. The border's still a long way off, and he declares his next stop, the Tulcher mountain range. He forged ahead, hunger clawing at his gut as he cursed himself for not bringing enough supplies. His eyes snag a strawberry-like fruit and he blurts, "Is this edible?" But the moment he snatches it, the root twists into a ghost and they both recoil in terror. Then the hero sprints from a swelling horde of monsters, shouting he never imagined that was a church disaster plan. The receptionist's warning slammed into him. "Don't set foot in the church mountain range. Beware the disaster plants." He snarled that if he yanked one, chaos would erupt. At that moment, a nightmarish face slammed into his mind. She warned they unleash a glowing screen that drags every nearby monster straight to it. Snapped back to the present, the boy's chest went cold. He's sure he just pulled off something wildly reckless. He hurls his magic word into the air and roars, "It's..." Utterly fascinated, he carves the word SMOKE into the air. A massive plume of smoke erupts, billowing up right in front of the horde. Sometime later, after he'd driven them off, the hero smirked and thought he probably could have defeated them. A tide of attackers crashed in at once, too many to stop. Confusion knots his brow. He blurts that he's starving, his eyes darting to the side. He sniffed sharply as an odd smell cut through the air. A sudden sound ripped through the forest, ricocheting off the trees. Pulled by the scent, the boy creeps toward a crackling campfire. He spots a fish being cooked, and his gaze snaps around the room. Spotting that no one's around, he bellows, "Time to eat!" He snaps his head up. Something comes barreling straight at him. He springs skyward, twisting midair to slip past the incoming strike. Some kind of mate snapped at the boy, demanding he say his name. He snarled, "Stealing food from the great Arnold is unforgivable." A voice snaps like a whip, ordering the boy to repeat his name. Okamura snaps, "Is this fish yours?" And the man smirks, claiming it. He caught it after all. The bespectacled hero points at the fish and asks for one, claiming he's starving, while Arnold scoffs and wonders what kind of parents raised him. Sliding his glasses into place, Okamura snaps, "You won't keep it?" They toss him anything. He snaps it's frustrating and sneers old man. Arnold's blood boils. A voice rips from the background, screaming, "Uncle!" A child pierces the hush, whispering, "Are you okay?" The man snarled that the child was a mirror, told her to wait a beat, and vowed he'd teach this guy a lesson with a fist of love. Right then, the protagonist's eyes lock onto the trial. He forces out, "I'm fine," leaving Arnold dumbfounded. The boy insists he quit snatching everything, so Arnold owes him a little share. Arnold snaps, "Nobody ever taught me how to talk properly." The bespectacled boy snapped, "What's the problem?" and coldly vowed he wouldn't give any more than that. Poised to strike, the red-haired man snarls that she had no right to speak, yet she spat brat right at him. In that instant, the boy's eyes widened. He finally saw just how blindingly fast Arnold moved as the red-haired man smirked and snapped, "That kid's got lightning-fast feet, too." They snap into battle stance, each seizing their weapon. Glancing back, the red-haired man bellowed Muir's name. A hulking bear explodes out of the trees, towering over the forest. It barreled straight for frightened girl. The man rockets forward, closing the distance to snatch her out of harm's way. He unleashed a colossal slash at the bear, shearing his arm clean off. Facing the snarling monster, he roared to the girl, "Are you okay?" He snaps, "Leave now, let me handle this." Something else barrels closer. Several colossal bears thundered together, their heavy steps rattling the ground. He clamps the sword's hilt so tight his knuckles go white, eyes boring into you as he wonders what you should do. A cold dread slammed into him. Unleashing his technique now could seriously hurt Mirror. In the background, the protagonist's shout sliced through the noise as they called to the man. He sneered, "Is that it? All you've got are fish?" Arnold snaps, "What are you talking about? I only have fish." And the boy coldly declares there's no reason left to stay in Salive. Looking back, the man notices the bear's severed paw slam him onto the fish. Frustration boiling over, he snapped, "Of all places, it had to fly right there." He turns and strides away, voice heavy as he admits it'll be tough and tosses the old man a sincere good luck. The man hollered after him, insisting that if you know it's tough, you should help. The protagonist refused and shot back, "Why should I work for free?" He scoffed, branded it absurd, then smirked and admitted he'd consider it, only if any fish was left for him. Annoyed, the warrior snarls, "If it comes down to it!" When it comes to that, he unleashes his last resort, tears off a scrap of his aquatic dog meat and shoves it your way. The protagonist hurtles forward and snaps, "What is that?" The man raves about its premium meat. "Throw it on the grill and it melts in your mouth." Hyrule demanded, "Are you serious?" And Arnold snapped, "Now isn't the time to lie." In a heartbeat, the colossal bear seized hold. He snatches the little girl and stalks forward, hungry jaws poised to swallow her whole. In that heartbeat, the hero scrawled "Paralyze" across the bear's fur. The bear's massive paws loosen and the girl tumbles free in an instant. The man rockets forward, scooping her into his arms and tearing her away from danger. He explodes onto the scene, scoops her into his arms, and shouts for her to stay calm. He snapped at the little girl to stand up, now or she gets into a brutal fight to claw their way into a safe hiding place. Snatching his sword, the boy bellowed for the old man to line the creatures up. Frustration snapping, Arnold barked, "Fine, I'll do it now anyway." He says if Hera refuses to budge, he must hang back while the protagonist can only watch. Right then, Arnold tenses, eyes blazing as he channels raw energy into his signature attack. He thrusts his blade skyward. He unleashes the devastating technique Explosive Wind Claw. The attack crashes into the bear with brutal force, and all crackles in the hero's voice as he declares, "That's impressive." With lightning speed, he unleashes They unleashed the extended magic word skill. "This move rips clean through the bear." Grinning, the hero proclaims, "The bear skewer is ready." Sliding his blade into its scabbard, he smirks. He expected nothing less. A strike from a weapon so piercing and laser-focused. Afterward, Arnold blurts out, "How do heroes save mirrors?" He snaps, "Shouldn't I be more worried about that child's safety?" Worry sharp in his voice, the man snaps, "Where is she?" Then the girl bursts into view, tears streaming and words tumbling out as she rushes toward him. He darts in, breathless, shouting if she's hurt, and she snaps back that she's not. Relief floods the man, and he collapses to the ground, while the bespectacled boy's breath catches as the old woman and her promise snap back into his mind. Arnold then snaps, "Which promise are you talking about?" Curiosity erupted across Hyrule the moment a cold, murderous aura slithered into the air. He scrambles, blurting a nervous apology. "I was only joking," then rushes to Miura, pleading he never wanted her to eat this meat. She flashed a radiant grin and declared she was fine. The boy had saved her. Out of nowhere, the man erupted into a thunderous uproar. He strode up to the sobbing child and asked, "Why do you have to be such a good girl?" A while later, the meat gleamed, juices pooling, succulent and seemingly ready for the taking. Anticipation crackled as everyone locked eyes. With iron resolve, they vow to eat and then stand guard to protect. The antagonist snarls and sinks his teeth into the first bite. He bites into the meat and is catapulted into the heavens, his senses exploding as he soars. He convinces himself it's melting on his tongue, and vanishes without a trace. A faint tang in the marinade jolts the meat awake, sharpening and amplifying its flavor. Tears choking him, he pleads, "Tell me, how am I, and is that reason enough to kill me for this?" He raves that Muir's sauce is phenomenal, when a surprise camera suddenly cuts in and asks if she made it. She smiles and owns it. Yes, it's a special sauce, forged from a bold, juicy medley of various fruits. Seeing this, the boy's grin sliced the silence. He proclaimed she'd been raised well. Belly full, the hero leaned in and asked the boy his name. The boy, annoyed, barked, "You should say your name first!" And the man bristled, irritation flaring across his face. Introducing himself, he bellows, "I'm Arnold Oshk, a daring adventurer and a whip-smart cook." A small voice rings out, "I'm Mira Kassler." With every word razor sharp, the protagonist snaps, "Was I kidnapped?" And the man flatly denies it. He proclaimed she hailed from a village he'd once walked through, and in this very heartbeat, she was his daughter. The hero scanned the scene, mind racing as he mapped every danger and possible move. He watches himself being pulled along by his own circumstances, utterly uninterested. Abruptly changing the subject, Arnold snaps, "Who are you?" He storms the room with his name, Kamara Hero, and proclaims himself an adventurer and an avid rear. Seething, the warrior snaps that the last part's just a hobby, then reintroduces you. His daughter pipes up, grinning that she's all smiles and impossibly cute. The camera blurts, "Do you like little girls?" Rage detonates in him and he snaps, "What are you talking about?" She fires back, "I'm not a little girl, I'm already 12. A grin spreads across his face as he snaps, "That's right, she might already have a baby." The realization slammed into her like a freight train, leaving her reeling. He admitted it's nothing like he'd pictured, and Arnold snapped, "You mean Muir? Of course she's different," scoffing that anyone would freeze if a rude, ragged food thief suddenly shoved himself in front of them, and the hero snarled. The man looks like he's itching to stain the rust on his katana. Eyes blazing, the adventurer vows that if he wants to try, he'll personally guarantee Muir's safety. He even boasts he could devour number 2. They catch murmurs asking if this kind of joke has become a craze among beastkin these days. He snatched up his sword and demanded, "How did you figure that out?" In that heartbeat, the hero jabbed a finger to the side. Her tail betrayed her, poking out from a shoddy hiding spot as she crumpled into bawling sobs, choking out frantic apologies. The hero barrels on, revealing that one defining trait of beastkin is their tail. And that key dangling at her throat? Let's talk about it. She shrouds herself with it, concealing her animal ears and every other telltale feature. Arnold's jaw tightens, then he admits it. The boy was right. The child is a beastkin. You drop to your knees, pleading with the boy not to breathe a word, and the hero snapped, "Why would you tell anyone?" He couldn't care less whether she's human or cloaked in beast skin. The hero scoffs at petty details and devours books instead. For instance, his productivity shot through the roof the moment he put books and food first. The adventurer's surprise bursts into laughter, and the protagonist snaps at him to stop laughing, locking eyes, or someone lunges in to help punch him. Arnold slicks back his hair, nods, and says, "There are people like the hero." He drops the bomb. He's a beastkin too, and he's heading back to his continent, right by the border. Grab the boy and ask if he wants to know why he doesn't have animal ears. In a flash, the hero snaps, "I'm not interested," and the man barrels on, launching into a relentless explanation. They declare it's a tale about humans. He snarls that while he was a slave, they stole his ears. This slams into the hero, flooding them with confusion. He snaps that someone in the city can't be allowed to know. This practice was officially abolished. Back when the beastkin had little real power despite their political clout, humans forged a system of slavery to crush them. They snatched children and brand glowing crests into their skin, and if any resist, the crests flared to life, stabbing them with white-hot agony. He confesses his ears were torn off before he was sold, a mutilation that brands him a bug-like anomaly. The ears he wears are prosthetics, an acquaintance crafted, and they trigger an identity flaw whenever he crosses into human territory. The hero snaps, hungry for answers. Can crests be easily erased, and does his presence here prove he actually escaped? Arnold snaps that crests evaporate on their own the instant their masters die. He spat that he'd never been involved with him and insisted a kind human had saved him. A threatening aura coils around him as Hero snaps that if it were him, he'd unleash relentless revenge on humans in countless brutal ways. Arnold's voice tightens with alarm as he snaps. "This is terrifying." Arnold presses his hand to his daughter's head and declares, "I'm happy now. Everything's fine." He flips the topic and hounds Hero, demanding to know why he's in a place like this, if he's here on a mission. The hero snaps, "I'm crossing the border!" And Arnold, stunned, fires off, "Why are you heading to the mixed continent?" The boy snaps back, "I can feel the whole world bristling with tension right now." He scoffs at the current situation and does exactly as he pleases. Laughter rips from the man as he declares, "Harrow's truly a funny guy." Arnold jabbed a finger at the girl, smirking as he goaded, "When are you going to take that hat off?" Her tiny ears pop into view. Eyes wide, Hira blinked. They looked like tiny spheres. And then he saw it. She was a beastkin, a trait he could spot soon after arriving in this world. Cheeks burning, the child murmurs that it's unbearably shameful. The man erupts into a whistle and the protagonist snaps, "What are you doing?" Arnold brushes it off, snapping, "It's nothing." Arnold grins and says fate shoved them onto the same path. They're heading to the same place, so they'll travel it together. The protagonist snaps back, "Arnold's wrong." Hyrox strode forward, each step a thunderclap that shook the ground beneath him. "If there are lands you should have named, fall in behind me." The warrior seethed to himself. This brat was shredding his patience. As they strode, Arnold pressed Harrow for his level. Eyes narrowed at the strange magic crackling around him, and his movements screamed inexperience. Arnold barked the verdict. The hero's psychological attributes are high for a human, and his killing intent is decent. He's barely fought. A total novice on the battlefield. Heroic locks onto Arnold's keen perception and snaps, "What's your level?" Arnold snaps, "Level 31, and Harrow checks the readout. It's true. Arnold's at 31, his daughter's only 13. A hard truth slammed into him. He wasn't lying. Forging his title, Arnold explodes into a booming laugh and scoffs that it's an unpleasant title. Hieronymus's breath caught as the truth hit him. The man's ability wasn't magic after all. Hero shoots back, "I'm level 23. I don't fully trust Arnold, but I'm curious enough to travel with him." Arnold erupts with excitement, bellows, "That's even better!" and proudly crowns himself the winner. Harrow snarled, "You're a perverted lolicon!" and slammed that level isn't everything. They glare at each other. Annoying Arnold taunts, "You still won't admit you were defeated?" And Harrow snaps, "You want to test me?" She cuts them off, snapping, "Move!" She's certain the line's already on the other side. They stride on together, the background unfolding behind them. Hero whooped, "That old man survived again!" Pulling a ridiculous face, Arnold crows that he alone got lucky and sneers, "Hiro's an idiot." They traded razor-sharp barbs as they strode onward. At last they reached the spot. I demanded to know what happened. The village looked utterly destroyed. The warrior barreled up to the villager, eyes blazing, and snapped, "Did something happen?" The man snaps, "Yes, those skins went berserk through the area, terrifying everyone." The villager explains that they clashed with a strange, sinister band of people determined to snare a beastkin and force them into obedience. He brands it an irrational demand, says the group instantly descended on the beaskins who refused, and Arnold snaps, "What happened to those beaskins?" Sometime later, rain pummels the earth as they stand before a single stone. Fists clenched and rage sparking in his veins. Arnold snaps at the villager, "Tell me your group's name." The man snaps, "They're called the Shadows of the Piskins." Time barrels forward and they're suddenly back in the village. The boy devours a book in bed, while Arnold and his daughter slump, every ounce of motivation sapped from them. This snatches the boy's gaze, freezing him in place. Suddenly Arnold snaps, plunging into a furious, uncontrollable fit of rage. The red-haired man's wild look snaps back to calm. He pins Hero with a hard stare and tells him his razor tongue had oddly delighted him today, and he snapped at the boy. "Got something to say?" Hire shot back, saying he was only checking if Arnold planned to head to the border soon. Arnold grins and says he's in no rush. He thinks taking it slower from now on could give him the edge. Arnold flashes a grin, vows they'll barrel forward at their usual pace, and the hero laughs, calling him quite optimistic. Eyes alight, the adventurer roars, "When it comes to Muir, everything changes!" Who charges forward, shoving everything aside as they go. The protagonist summons Olalakan again, hurling him back into the fray. His daughter snaps at Harrow, snarling that he's cruel and roaring that she's not a little girl anymore. He snubbed their calls, spun on his heel, and plunged back into the pages. A day raced by beneath a crystal-clear sky. Arnold snaps that he came to hawk his monster drops, but this village doesn't have a guild. The boy from class sneers. If it's eating you up that much, why don't you just toss them? Arnold scoffs that it'd be a waste, revealing most of his drops are frog and bee needles. Tiny things that turn out to be shockingly valuable. They step out and the hero hesitates. Rush into the shop or stay glued to the story. Arnold says if he's got the cash, he can snag the ingredients and the books he adores. I think it crept toward the store buried inside a man's body. He snaps, "What do you mean by don't sell that here?" The attendant's fingers twitch with nerves. The bald man cries he's in trouble. And the attendant blurts, "Check the general store for needles, frogs, and bees." The child then bursts out to her uncle that he has those. With a predator's glare, the bald man closed in on the girl and snapped, "Do you have something?" The bald man locked his gaze on her father and burst out an apology. "I got way too excited." Arnold snaps, "You want the frog and bee meals?" He insists his daughter was stung by a poisonous insect and begs that the needles will lull her to rest. In the background, the protagonist's irritation swells. The man raked his gaze over the ingredients and books, then snarled, "This is no small matter." The bald man storms out of the shop, practically shouting that he urgently needs the frog and bee needles, and he's got other things that might interest you. Grinning, he vows that no matter what, his wife and daughter will be happier, and this seals it. They'll end up under the same roof and meet again. He threads a last breathy goodbye and hurls a fierce thank you their way. The protagonist watched the bald man stride off and couldn't help blurting, "That guy's a dead ringer for Tiffin." Sometime later, in Paladins, they proclaim their packs brim with food. They teeter, camp here tonight or push onward. Okamara nods toward the square, grinning at the racket out there, and Arnold leans in, asking if some spectacle's underway. Curiosity blazing, the red-haired man charges into the square to see what's unfolding. Confusion slams into him, leaving him scrambling for answers. When he deciphers the words inscribed on the men's uniforms, his face snaps into a hard mask and he yells to Hyro, "We have to leave, now!" Someone snapped, "Don't move!" and vowed they'd investigate anyone who so much as budged. One of the men bellows, "There's a beastkin in this city!" They're closing in, about to snatch it. He barked, "Everyone, start checking now!" In that instant, the boy's gaze snaps to a book, cramped inside the cart. They toy with the idea of sneaking a quick peek at it. From far off, a cold truth hits him. He can't reach it. As the citizens are rifled through, the men locked eyes with the woman and asked her to remove her cap. He scans her, then bellows the all clear. She's free to go. The little girl quivers, burrowing behind her father's leg and clutching him like a lifeline. One of the men bellowed to the figure wearing a blue cap. Eyes glued to the trial, he insists he's talking to her. He snaps for her to yank the cap off. "Brat!" he sneers. He barks for her to move faster. Just then, a panicked voice screams, begging them to let the child go. Eyes blazing with mania, one of the men snapped an order. A report just blasted in. "They found two of them, and there's no g—" He points at a woman and her daughter, and one of the men snaps, "They're right!" Barks for them to stand, then coldly asks, "Shall I kill them now?" Watching all this, a swarm of questions clawed at him. What's going on? Stepping in, one of the men spotted a tail flicking from the girl's back. Everyone jerks to attention, eyes snapping toward the scene. Then the group swarms around Arnold barking, "Don't move!" Tears carved tracks down his cheeks as his daughter whispered an apology. He gripped her, insisted she wasn't to blame, and urged her to escape for now. A voice from the background snapped at him, "Stop, right now!" A one-eyed man storms from the shadows and snarls that protecting a bee-skin is a terrible mistake. The whole story flips on a dime if he wants to die here. Cold sweat beads on his brow as he stares. Could this be their leader? The newcomer's aura screams he's on a whole other level. The class council leans in, voices biting. What should he do when he'll have to battle the leader and every last one of them? I realized if they slipped up, you'd have a shot to strike. But this ceramic stops his spell cold. You can't even whisper his magic words. Sweat beading and nerves snapping, Arnold blurts, "What is he saying?" and adds that human or beastkin, labels crumble when survival is all that matters. Arms crossed, a cold smile on his face, he declared that bee-skins are few in number but warrant the same hatred as demunkins, branding them a disgrace. Their mere presence here twists his stomach into knots and sends bile crawling up his throat. Rage roared through Arnold as he barreled straight at the man, and he snapped that he'd been wandering for far too long. The one-eyed man fires back that he's already faced this, and Arnold snarls he'll never forgive him. A desperate, "No, uncle!" rips from his daughter. He whirls and sees Mira seized by the guards. Her tears ignited Arnold. Rage surged through him and he roared, "Let her go!" But a brutal blow smashed into his head and he crumpled to the ground, plummets, slamming into the ground. The one-eyed man snarls that Arnold mustn't squander his life so easily. He's only human. Pinned to the dirt, the last thing Arnold hears is the one-eyed man barking for them to shove the brat into the cage with the mother and his daughter helpless, completely unable to do anything. Arnold's rage erupted. Clutching the girl's hat, the protagonist roared. He bristles. He can't stand that attitude. 2 hours later, the hero and Arnold hunker down in a cabin, and the boy scoffs that the man sleeps far too much. Spotting him surge to his feet, Harrow demanded, "Where are you going?" Rage boiled in Arnold's veins as he snarled he'd rescue Muir. It's only been 2 hours, they can't have gone far. He could scour every corner and he'd track her down. Harrow scoffs, calling that a hopelessly inefficient plan. Arnold yanks the boy's shirt, hauls him close, and snarls, "Got a better plan?" Irritation ignited. The protagonist barked at him, "Let go!" First, then he slams a savage punch into his stomach. He sneers that Arnold will never amount to anything if he can't even dodge a single punch for him. Stammering, Arnold confesses he knows and begs that's all he can come up with for now. Harrow cuts him off, snapping, "Don't worry, we're still in the city." Eyes blazing, the red-haired man burst, "Are you serious?" And Hyra snapped, "Don't get so close. It's suffocating." Hin bursts the news to Arnold. A rumor says the root meeting's happening nearby. They're probably holed up in the eastern part of the city, waiting for someone to arrive. The warrior starts to leave, but a camera crackles to life and cuts him off. "Wait a moment." He whips his head back, red hair flashing, and cries, "Hera, will you help?" He snaps back, "I'm not that kind of person. I'm only here for the group." He drove Arnold alone and unloaded a flood of information on him. He grinds his teeth, wondering how Arnold plans to compensate him for that. Arms folded, Arnold snaps he'll be quick and orders Hero to hang on every word. He bellows the organization's name, the Shadows of the Beastkins, and lays bare their goal. Expel Beastkins from the human continent or subjugate them. Continuing, Arnold reveals they captured him and dragged him into brutal slavery. He eyes them coldly and snaps, "They're forged strong, because you need that kind of power to take on Beastkins. They're born packing raw power that dwarfs regular humans." Arnold snaps, incredulous. "What's this sudden interest? You never cared about anyone before." Harrow snaps that he doesn't care about the group. He's after the book they're carrying. He swore a book had been on their cart, but the title slipped from his memory. They unearthed it on a continent-spanning trek. Hero swears he can press on without them, but they might be sitting on vital intelligence about the Beastkin continent. He raves that Arnold's cooking is downright delicious. Convinced helping would bury him in trouble, he decides that if he can snatch the book during the chaos, he will. The group hunts beaskins, so he seized it with a clean conscience. Throwing the door open, Hyra urges Arnold to snatch that book, but Arnold snaps that the mirror comes first. At the group's meeting spot, Muir crumpled to his knees and sobbed, his cries tearing through the air. Memories of her father crashed over her, and she whispered a brutal question. Would his life be easier if she had never existed? Muir snaps her gaze to the side and spots a child clutching her mother, voice trembling as she asks, "Are we going to die?" Through choking sobs, the child pleads with her mother, "Are beastkins really that awful? They just seem a little different." The woman fires off an apology, confessing that if she had, they demanded to set foot in this city. She locked eyes with Muir and choked out an apology. They snarled that she'd been dragged into this because of her. Even the sobbing child chokes out a trembling, "I'm sorry." Crying alongside them, Muir bites back tears and realizes she can't cry now. She's been entrusted with her uncle's honor by his will, and she knows that if she dares say words like, "It'd be better if I vanished," he'd be crushed by grief. The mirror answers, trembling. She's terrified, but a lone hero prowls the city and he'll burst from the shadows to save them. The kid's eyes blaze with excitement the instant he hears about his hero. They loudly pledge their trust in the girl. She clings to the belief her uncle will swoop in and save her. Hyro? She's unsure if he'll come. Outside, the one-eyed man snaps into a bow, says, "It's been a while," and dresses Mr. A. Pro. Mr. Apuro snaps that the Force has already done him enormous favors. Ditch the stiff act, you don't need to be so formal. Sobs racking him, he chokes out, "This place is unbearably warm." A creepy grin tore across his face as he leaned in and asked if he could take a... Mr. Cowrove shoots a quick, cutting glance and immediately nods, letting it happen. He lunges into the cart and there she is, a woman sitting with 2 children. A wild, menacing grin splits his face as he stalks forward and hisses, "They're truly beautiful." Leaving the cart, he spins on the force and declares he's very pleased with their work. The man beams, gratitude bursting from him as he thanks them for the praise. The sweat-slick man leans in, voice raw, asking if the child is a silver wolf. If she is, she's a staggeringly rare find. He can't help but gush. Those 2 tiny kittens are absolutely adorable. The force leans in and asks if he's sure about buying them. And the man fires back a steady, unwavering yes. The man thrusts a document into his hand and barks for him to channel a sliver of mana into it to confirm the transaction. Flames lash the paper, devouring it into ash in an instant. Surprise jolts Fulcet, precisely the reaction he'd engineered. From the rooftop, the protagonist crouched like a coiled spring, muscles tense to launch. He unleashed his abilities and intoned the magic words, forcing this into reality. Arnold barrels forward as the men bark, "Stop right there!" Arnold ripped his sword free and thundered, "I'm here to get Muir!" Relief slammed into him the moment he spotted the girl. She was safe. Drawing his sword, Folsen snarled he'd make Arnold remember to value his life. Right then, the red-haired man whipped around, revealing himself. He flicks his tail into view, proclaims he's a beastkin, and spits, "Folsen, you idiot!" Shock hit them like a thunderclap, every face drained of color and every jaw dropped. Surprised, the man's jaw drops as he wonders why Arnold doesn't have animal ears. But Arnold brushes him off and snaps that it's Hero's turn now. Arnold yanks his hair aside to reveal the fake ears and grins. They're prosthetics. The Hero hunkers down behind the cart, heartbeat hammering. He'd scrawled HIDE across his palm in jagged, urgent letters. That lets him vault into the cart and snatch the books. It hits him. The books span a wild range of subjects. We ripped through topics, and one even spotlighted a gourmet, a travel diary that suddenly explodes into steamy adult content. Scowling, he flung the books aside. He snatches the sack, claims it as his, and scrawls the word across its fabric. I hurled it forward. And at that moment, the sack it blinks into being, then snaps back into existence somewhere else. When he tries it, it hits him. He can slam 2 similar magic words back to back. Arnold finally steps up with his request. Outside, Folsen stands frozen, reeling at the revelation that Arnold is a beastkin. He hollers to Mr. Apuro, "What's your price for the man?" And Apuro shuts him down, saying, "Arnold's a deep man. Buyers for male beastkin are practically extinct in this era. If Arnold wants to blame someone, he should curse the day he was born a beastkin." Arnold roared, "I won't lose this time!" Brandishing his sword, the one-eyed man jeered at him. He brags like a king, but can't conjure a single spell. At that moment, hooded figures thrust a single hand forward, snarling that extending any more would be pointless. Right on cue, an explosion ripped the air apart. I hurtled toward the man who detonated an explosive wind strike to count in the fire. Folsen's eyes blaze as he snaps. "Is that an ability? And how long can Arnold keep that up?" Taunt the red-haired A cold grin spreads as he vows to drag him under too. Myling, the one-eyed man, strides up to the cart. Arnold's daughter flat-out refuses to even try. Rage coursing through him, Arnold spits "coward" at him. They engineered fake encounters and brazenly passed them off as strategy. Arnold snuffed out the explosion, now utterly exhausted. Disbelief flashes across his face as he scoffs. "Is that all you've got, Arnold? That's your limit?" He squeezed Arnold's shoulder and promised with a sharp grin, "Don't worry, Mr. Apuro will take good care of the girls." A maniacal grin splits his face as he proclaims these beastkin the cutest he's ever seen. The man's disgusting words slammed into my ears, venom dripping from every syllable. Arnold's fury surged, each heartbeat fanning the flames. He snaps, "How long are you going to stand there, Folsen?" And in just a second, he barrels forward with everything he's got, yanking every eye onto him. Arnold's sudden move stunned them, and they jumped to the wrong conclusion that he'd hit the cart too. Arnold wastes no time. He delivers a single deadly blow that obliterates them all. It detonated in an enormous blast, whipping the air into a massive, howling whirlwind. He unleashed a strike so devastating it destroyed. He blasted every nearby wagon into splinters. The red-haired man collapses to his knees, chest heaving and spent, and croaks, "How did it go?" The one-eyed man, still alive, stands stunned and admits he never believed Arnold could pull all that off. Pure awe lacing his voice. Startled, Arnold snaps that the man isn't normal and yanks his sword free. Folson agrees, snarling that in the end, Arnold is truly a barbaric beastkin for sinking his ally this way. Arnold snorted at Folson, daring him to be impressed as he bragged he hadn't harmed a single beastkin in the attack, then erupted into mocking laughter. Right then, time froze. A little girl cries out, "Uncle!" The one-eyed man whipped his gaze to the side, his lone eye widening as he realized the others were still alive. His jaw drops and he blurts, "How did Arnold even get his hands on the wagon's key?" He spins to face the protagonist and snaps, "Who is this boy, really?" Arnold cracks up, admits he's dying to know too, then grins and jokes the trollers can circle back to that later. Arnold stares at all his fallen opponents and snarls, "Looks like full." Wilson's the lone survivor. The whole game just flipped on its head. Folson's smile bloomed, eyes blazing with resolve, and he snapped that he alone was more than enough to handle him. The child lunges in front of her father, arms thrown wide. They roared that it had now returned to shield him. The one-eyed man snaps that even glancing at his friends crushes him, and that he's already sent his client packing. Arcane energy roars from his left hand as he snarls a warning. Now he's going to kill them all. He unleashes a blazing fireball, a roaring orb of molten flame hurtling straight for his foe. He unleashed a savage hack aimed straight at them. Arnold hurled himself aside at the last heartbeat, snatching the child into his arms and out of danger. He studied his opponent and knew the towering pompadour wasn't just a quirk. It had to be something special. He flips to his stats and his eyes go wide. Folson's already level 58. A yawning 27-level gap meant he could steamroll the old man in an instant. Hyrule's memory snaps to the moment he told Arnold to handle it alone. Now he watches everything spiral into chaos. He snaps, "Either way, it's getting..." Scorching heat punishes him. He looks down and his eyes go wide in shocked disbelief. Crouched, he sprang into a roaring clash. Hero's sudden outburst hits like a thunderclap, sending Folson staggering back, eyes wide with shock. Panting, Hero gapes at the charred husks of every book. He glides up to them without a sound, snatches one, and it crumbles to dust in his hands. He plunged back into the fight, his battle cry exploding louder than ever. Rage devoured them whole. A tremor rips through his body. Rage carved his features as he thundered, "How dare you burn my books?" Bafflement ripples through the room as Arnold snaps, "Those aren't even Hero's books." He snapped his sword free here too. Carol snaps at the man, "Are you prepared for the consequences?" In a heartbeat, it rocketed higher. He lunges at the one-eyed man, who scrambles a desperate parry and barely keeps the blow from landing. Folson's gaze flared as he declared, "This boy is anything but ordinary." Hyra slips behind the man, coiling to strike again. He rockets forward and slams a lightning-fast blow into Folson's armor. Arnold's eyes lock on the fight, stunned at how lightning-fast they move. In that instant, a grin twisted across the one-eyed man's face. In a heartbeat, Folson materialized right behind the hero. He slams a strike into Hirob's back, forcing him to retreat. He yanked off his eye patch. He roared that the boy would now answer for what had happened. A jolt of confusion hit the protagonist as they locked onto the man's eye, desperate to uncover what was wrong. A grin splits Folson's face as he asks if it bothers him and snarls that the grotesque eye was forged from pain and suffering. When beasts can He snaps, "Hyra will never understand." Charging forward, Folsa roars that agony instantly explodes into searing hatred. He bellows the cycle is endless and scoffs that it's child's play to understand. Rage sealed it. They'll never forgive the bee-skins. Hatred sears him. He truly abhors them. Folson slams it with his bare hand. A devastating haymaker smashed into the hero's skull, hurling him far away. Folson clamps a hand around his throat. He seized it with his left hand. He hammers Harrow's stomach again and again, snarling, "I'll never forgive you for protecting them." Coughing. Hera's heart drops. She knows at this rate his HP will flatline. Folson seizes the hero's hand and declares he does. He has no idea what kind of trick Tyra is hiding up her sleeve. His right eye betrays every move Hero makes, proclaims that this eye. His sight snaps wide and his psychic powers surge. The one-eyed man tightened his grip, aimed his final strike at Harrow off, and thundered, "It's over!" From the background, Arnold's yell ripped through the silence. He hurled his sword at Folson, the blade screaming through the air. Mirroring that, Folson snarls, brands him a fool and boasts he sees everything. Everything, conjury and every other spell, Folsom dismisses, promises Arnold, "I'll see you later," and barks for him to stay put. He unleashed his crimson spear magic, and the spear slammed into its mark. Direct hit. Arnold's blast hurled him through the air. Folsom snarled that Arnold had no right to interfere while he was weak, insisting Arnold was probably the very beast Folsom had torn to pieces a while back. In that instant, a memory slammed into Arnold. He slams the line open and shouts that he's visiting that village. He levels a blistering question at Folsom. Why did you do something so cruel? The one-eyed man sneered, I despise beastkins. He lunged between them, crumpled to the ground, and gasped that he understood where the man was coming from. At that instant, he unleashed his magic word ability, inscribing the word light into the air. A blinding light pummels Folsom's eyes, and the boy snaps that he must take care of the old man. In a flash, he snaps into motion, launching into light. On the man's torso, the moment culminates. He finishes with a straight punch smashed into the man's face. A rift ripped them apart. The two now stand separated. He laughs, baring his swollen, bruised face, and declares the debt for what happened is finally paid. He'd riled the red-haired man. Call the boy out. Why are you siding with a beastkin? You're human. Beastkin are the enemy, that's common sense. Seething, the boy snarled a warning. This has nothing to do with you. You ruined my fun, and I'm going to bring you down. One of the little girls blurted out, cutting him off and telling the man he should. She throws up her hands in defeat and snaps, You're a freak with those strange eyes! Folsom spun around, fury blazing, and snapped at the child, demanding to know what she'd just said. She sprints away as the child keeps screaming, Freak! At the man, and the one-eyed man snarled that she must really want to die. A Termini hurls another blazing fireball. This time, lock your sights on the child. Arnold's son rockets in and hauls her to safety. The red-haired man, panic burning in his voice, yells, Muir! After the explosion. Then, choking on disbelief, spits, There's no way this is real. Smoke from the blast billowed, and a bespectacled boy stepped into view. He scooped the children into his arms and yelled, They're a nuisance and need to get out of there. One of the children explodes into laughter, tossing a biting comment about, one hand clamps onto his arm while another voice shrugs it off. Just a scratch, they say, trying to calm him. The child then darts forward and thanks him, eyes shining with gratitude. Confusion clouding his face, the boy barked, Get out, now! He forced out an apology to the one-eyed man, then swore he'd protect him and everyone there. They're my clients. Grinning with his lone eye, the man snaps that the boy's getting on his nerves and admits his arm still won't obey him. The boy grins, and in that instant his arm erupts into a blazing glow. His hand exploded into motion, scrawling the single word he across the page. He declares, I can move it freely now. A one-eyed man, eyes blazing with awe, asks if he can wield light magic despite not being the Ghost King. The boy snaps back, eyes blazing. I'm free to think whatever I like. Folsom cuts in, voice razor flat. Looks like it's time to stop. He was just toying with him, then suddenly snarled he'd blow him up right now. He fires off several blazing fireballs. The lens locks onto the protagonist, frame after frame. Boom! The attack detonates into a massive explosion, rocking the ground and ripping the air apart. Dread tightened its grip on Arnold and the girl. Unscathed, Hero rockets straight at his opponent. With a cocky grin, the one-eyed man boasts he knew the boy would barrel straight at him. He clenched his right hand, coiling power for another attack as he spat, Die! Out of nowhere, the word cool explodes into view right in front of him. Steinman's fireball vanished. You're left with nothing but burning questions. The boy snapped, You'd better watch your step. Then crouched beside the man and scrawled, M-U-D into the dirt. Staring at the ground, the man snapped, What the hell is this, and can the boy use earth magic too? The boy slams another savage punch into his face. He proclaims it goes straight into the gourmet's journal, Traveling the Continent, Volume 1, and into other books. He rains down punches and roars, This one's for Volume 2! Volume 3 plunges headfirst into the magic system. Watching it unfold, the red-haired man smirks and mocks the boy's fierce, book-fueled jealousy. Reeling from a brutal thrashing, the one-eyed man crumples to his knees. He readied another magic strike, spat, You little brat, and the spell flat-out fizzled. Pushing his glasses up, the boy smirks that wielding fire and being felled by it would be poetic justice. Then scrawls, Burn, and engulfs the man in inferno until only ash remains. As he storms away, the boy snaps that the man must learn the price of starting a fight. Still alive? Not a chance. They're gone. Then lock onto the hero and demand, Who are you? O'Camera halts dead in his tracks. He snaps back that he's just a guy wielding a stolen power. Basically a walking cheat code. Folsom snarls. They're battered to a pulp. He seared his face and the others into his memory. Striding away, the boy shoots over his shoulder with a razor grin. You serious? Taunting him, the protagonist snaps. You're standing here completely naked right now. He storms off, spitting. You perverted pompadour. Shock slams into the man, freezing him on the spot as he swears he'll never forget this. A weary breath rips from the hero as he snatches a jagged rock and hurls it straight at the man. She slammed her hand onto his head and snapped, Shut up! He realizes that the man is a fire magic user with a furnace-like, relentless determination and a shockingly ironclad resilience. After the fight, he yanks Arnold's sleeve and snaps they must slip into the city before curious onlookers swarm. She thanks him, gratitude crackling in her voice, then begs to know how they can possibly repay him. Harris brushed it off like it was nothing, snapping that it wasn't necessary. It was just part of his request. Then he grabs Arnold, eyes blazing, and declares the top priority: never forget the refined ingredients. His eyes snap to the boy. A cold jolt hits him. Without Hero's help, it would have fallen apart, and a single furious question burns in his chest. Who is this kid? He eyes the boy. His strength and magic scream beyond any human, and curiosity erupts. What does the hero write when he activates this? He vows to ask at the first chance. In the background, that buyer bursts into Claire's, chest heaving, roaring that he won't let them escape. He bellowed that the Beaskins' lives would fuel their strength this time. You'll return the favor by unleashing the greatest service they've ever seen. Arnold and the protagonist press him for what it means, and the man smirks. Isn't it obvious? A sick sneer twisted his face as he spat. You'll enjoy that, but... He probed the body until he was fully satisfied. He snapped his head to the side and barked, Who's that? A hulking, bald giant named Rav loomed into view, towering over them like a living mountain. Rav yanks the man's shirt, eyes blazing, and snaps, Listen carefully, because that dazzling, divine enchantress and that adorable girl are his precious wives and daughters. He throws a punch so savage it sends the man soaring through the air. A teen blasts off into action with rocket-powered style. The trio froze, jaws dropping as shock slammed into them. A few weeks ago, the bald man choked out that he'd ruined everything. She locks her gaze on the house and declares she'll crash here for a while. Moments later, he wicks. Bore only minor injuries. A girl grabs her mother's sleeve, eyes wide. Is he okay? She pleads, and the mother, voice trembling, admits, We did everything we could. Bandages cocooned the man from head to toe. The woman and her daughter ask if he's feeling better. He makes his presence felt and declares he unleashed a fierce attack. And they married. Arnold erupts into laughter, incredulous that a mere human would dare call himself a beastkin. She pats her head, relief pouring out as she gasps. She's safe, then breathlessly says the heroes saved them. She snapped, The call's from you! Right on cue, the hero and Nai-chan burst onto the scene, exactly as she'd said. A triumphant grin lit her face. She knew he meant hero, not her father. He thanks the three of them once more, gratitude crackling in his voice, then leans in and asks for their names. Introducing himself, the red-haired man's voice sliced into the room like a roaring blade. He declares, I'm Arnold. The girl is Hiro's the antisocial one, a lone wolf who slams the door on everyone. One of the girls dropped into a deep, respectful bow, gratitude sparking in her eyes as she thanked the uncle and Sam, the hero. Irate, the red-haired man snaps that Mira calls him that too, instantly sees why. He's still young and a non-stop joker, and scoffs, calling him an old man. A thunderous rumble shudders through the air, snapping the two to instant razor-sharp alert. The boy's stomach erupted with a thunderous roar. He blurts out he's either starving or utterly crushed by sadness. Wounded, she rolls up her sleeves and vows to repay them by unleashing her cooking skills to say thank you. Her daughter pipes up, I'll help too! Arnold snaps that he won't stand idly by while it cooks. The bald man declares he'll be on patrol while they cook. Meanwhile, deep within the royal castle, everything held its breath. One girl blurted that the guy in the red robe is a non-stop ball of energy. The long-haired girl declares he rescued a beastkin child, a heroic act, and points out his tail mirrors Okamura's. She spits that there's no way he smashed the beastkin's cage, sneering, you little wretch, as another girl beams and teases that she must really like Okamura, but she snaps back a firm denial. He scoffed that the chance of someone like him existing was practically a myth, no more likely than her actually liking him. And right then, the girls they're trading intimate whispers when a boy cutting through the hallway freezes, sure their voices belong in a manga. Meanwhile, the protagonist lies. She swept her gaze over the prepared spread and dove into an excited explanation of the plum mix sauce she'd crafted, and the sweet rice she'd cooked to fuse that tube of fruit into the grains. She announced she'd whipped up extra dishes and told them to dig in, eat as much as they want. She snatches a quick bite, proclaims it delicious, and the room erupts in grateful thanks for the meal. The birds squawked, tearing into how you roofed the place. Each bite she takes transforms her into an angel. Arnold hollers for a brat while she glides past him, more angelic than ever. She barrels in, grinning, declares them both adorable, and snaps for them to stop making a fuss. Shoulder to shoulder, the bald man snarled that it was a brutal wrong, and his friend nodded fiercely in agreement. One child spins to the elder and proclaims he's ridiculously strong and crazy cool, even suggesting he should be her husband, leaving the other child wide-eyed and asking if she's being a bit hasty. The teasing girl smirks and declares that her mother's daughter will soon blossom into a breathtaking woman, while her parents murmur a conversation in the background. The bald man snapped, "What should I do to keep that boy away from Yuru?" The red-haired man laughed, voice booming, and roared, "Don't worry. We're almost finished with this journey. My daughter will be fine." Irritated, the red-haired man snarls that he's the one who should be worried. He's being forced into a trial with a hero seething with jealousy. Talk dwindled and plates emptied. They traded a final smile, then parted into the night. On the way, Arnold catches Hero's eye, insists on a quick word, then blurts out, "Are you okay with me and my daughter?" The mammoth classes roar, demanding, "What do you mean by that?" He barked that the authorities had them under surveillance for what happened and was certain they'd tail him. "Excuse me, they might reach the national border." Crossing it could unleash a tidal wave of trouble. At the end, he confessed the Hieragot had been dragged into this mess partly because of him, and guilt seared through him. Hero snaps it doesn't matter. He won't blame others for choices he made, and he'd already figured someone might come after him. They slammed the fact into the red-haired man's ears. He was heading for the national border, and if he kept thinking that way, the journey would serve as his payback. A low, world-weary sigh ripped from the red-haired man's chest. Then the protagonist snaps, "Why are you wasting time?" Grinning, he's convinced it's not a debt. The red-haired man helped him, so when they part, they'll be even. Believe me, this journey won't be boring or unpleasant. It'll explode with excitement and pure joy. Out of nowhere, the child cries out to him. They forced out an apology for what happened. She clutches his hand, voice trembling, and thanks him for saving her. But higher-ups can toss that aside. Something far more important is at stake. He snatches a hat from his pocket and crowns the child with it. Panic seizes her, so Hero drops to one knee, plants his hand on her head, and snaps, "If you're that worried, then become stronger." Arnold lunges forward, voice slicing the air. "Are you okay? Is the girl in trouble?" Right then, Hera snapped, ordering her to hurry and sneering, "That man's a lullicon." It stays on, sparking a white-hot fury in him. They erupt into a furious argument while the child just laughs, trailing behind them. It wraps up by teasing that things are about to get a whole lot more fun. The adventure explodes to life in the Hogue Mountains. Newer rocks, a swimsuit, and her father beams with pride and proclaims she's breathtakingly pretty. Right then, something plummeted from the sky. He plunged straight into the water, the explosive splash sending the child recoiling in terror. The whole crowd is scrambling, minds racing, desperate to pin down what it even is. And suddenly, it's a human, bobbing on the water. Moments later, they haul a figure from the churning water. It appears to be a girl. The red-haired man strode up and jabbed her, snapping her awake. The protagonist closed the gap and demanded, "Are you committing a crime?" Defending himself, the red-haired man snaps, "It's not because of my sister's cheek or anything like that." Chokin snaps at him to move and stop looking more guilty. He's already sliding away. Harold leans in toward her face and she snaps, sinking her teeth into his hand. The child yells for Hiro-san. The girl springs up, frantically apologizes for biting his hand and, breathless, calls him by name. Harrow snaps that she can't use his name so casually and mockingly dubs her Antenna Girl. She strides forward and declares, "My name is White." She crumpled face first to the ground, croaked, "I'm starving," and everyone froze, jaws dropping in stunned silence. Right then, the child snapped that they'd been racing to the mountain peak, so the only thing they could nab was a crab cow. Curious blurts, "Are crab cows tasty?" And Arnold grins, "They are." After a beat, she cuts in, "Traveling alone?" The other woman snaps, I'm hunting the one who did this. She whips open her cloak to bear a weapon, and someone blurts, Is that a dagger? Now the girl snaps, voice slicing the air. It's actually a spear! Muir bursts out. This is amazing. What kind of person made it? The girl replies, My father. She hooked her fingers into pretend ears on her head, cocked a grin, and declared, He looks like this. The camera leans in and snaps. Are they blood relatives? She hardly looks like a beast. She shoots back that they are, but she takes after her mother. We blurt, Are you a hybrid? And she gapes, utterly clueless about what that word even means. Curious Jubileecum spins toward a human and asks, B? This can hybrid refuses to sprout ears, and the man snaps, That's not how it works. He reveals humans and beasts can hybridize, and in her case she unmistakably takes after her human father. She taunts them, not scared, then unveils the beast in her blood. Everyone recoils and screams, Taboo! And monster! Hyro fires the question, Why is she taboo? And Arnold begins to explain that the magic and abilities forged by the beast skin have died out, rendering them useless. Turned into a heretical existence, they stand demonized and branded untouchable, cast forever as taboo. Hand on his hip, he snarls that they're not afraid of the girl, and roars that both he and Muir are beasts. The taboo chains her, she can't use magic or any abilities. Smiling Mirror snarls that Waitian is either a taboo, a forbidden curse, or a straight-up monster, caught in the searing gazes of the protagonist and the red-haired man. They say this guy cut to the chase and told it straight. Then the shock that hit them the moment he realized he, too, was a beastkin. Then he thundered the hero's words, quoting them verbatim. The moment Y finds out, their jaw drops in stunned awe. Looking back, the bespectacled guy barked, I'm starving! Hurry up, man! Get us to the peak! Wide-eyed, the girl blurted, Arnold, do you like little girls? Arnold shot back that she'd misunderstood him. Their words faded, time slid by, and they pressed onward. Arnold snatches the crab and shouts, We already found one! Luck's on our side! The boy grinned and announced the red-haired man had said finding one proved the land stretched wide and was a sure omen of good luck. The warrior leans in and warns, Crab cows are skittish. They cling to the water and almost never come ashore, melting into their surroundings with perfect camouflage. He cries out for a plan, and the man snaps that this time they'll use his magic word. The instant those words tore from his lips, several burst into view and make the man's blood run cold. The black-haired boy snaps that this must be the old man's retention rate from the incident with the trapped bee skins. The protagonist's killer aura crashed over him, and a jagged thought ripped through his mind. Am I the only one who has to hunt? Watching this, the two girls froze, terror clawing at their throats. The red-haired man declares, This way's faster and more reliable. Water lapping at his sides, he snaps, I heard something. I'm not joking. Something gigantic erupts from beneath the man. Sprawled on the ground, the protagonist cries, Am I free from the crab cows? The red-haired man snaps, No, it's just a cluster of cows packed together. Later, when fury boils, they smash together and flash their camouflage, becoming a massive crab cow. Drawing his sword, he snarled that the crab cows were camouflaged in the Wash River where he fell. Now he has no choice but to fight. The hero then barks a sharp command at the antenna girl to duck. He rockets into motion, pouring every ounce of power into a brutal assault on the clusters of crabs. To rookies, they pass for hydraulic cutters that, under normal circumstances, could... He ripped through steel, then snapped on armor to avoid being wounded. He shrugged off the strike and snarled, That didn't work on me. A blur rockets past his side. Is the antenna girl storming into the fray too? Her spirit blazing, he slashes the crab into several pieces. She snatched up her spear and roared, This will help! Arnold beams that she's doing well, and the protagonist. He practically explodes, shouting that he thought the spear was just for show. They launch themselves at the giant crab, hammering its armored shell, while a small child hangs in the background, only watching. Clutching the hero's words like a lifeline, the child of, One day he'll erupt with newfound unstoppable strength. The companion roars for everyone to clear out. He's about to unleash his finishing move. Using parallel writing, he detonates the crap into oblivion. After the explosion, he charges at the two without. He pivoted and looked back like a slow-mo scene straight out of an action movie. We ask if Hero uses elemental fire magic, and the man winces. He doesn't know. Hero never utters semi-incantations. He only scrawls weird words, and the rest is beyond him. Hero's magic is its own strange thing. Her eyes blazing, this girl exclaimed, "The hero is amazing!" She strode up to him, asked the hero if he'd used oil, and he shot back, "Yes." She snaps that she smelled it. Arnold Lynn grins and says she nailed the detection. He's a docking, so his senses missed it. And then he fires off, "What race is your father?" She bites her lip and confesses she doesn't know. Hyrule presses, "Is that important?" And the man snaps back with a single cutting word, "No." It gnaws at him. There must be a race better than the dock at smelling. The boy asks about existing races and wonders if such a race has ever existed. He revealed they once roamed as great beast skins, now reduced to mythical beast skins, our ancestors. Among them the golden foxes, whose every trait burst into being, never by chance. Some who inherit the nine-tailed trait can balloon into mountain-sized behemoths or completely morph into bee skin. Burning with curiosity, the boy asks if bee skins can undergo beastification, and the man snaps that nine-tails are a special case. It doesn't happen under normal conditions, and if it did, the odds of losing control are terrifyingly high. He flips the topic and declares he'll start cutting the crabs now. Mid-bite, the girl casually dropped that she'd begun her journey at 7. Everyone froze, jaws dropping in stunned disbelief. The man leaned forward and asked, "How old are you now?" She shot back, 14. He hurls the question, "Did you travel alone?" And she snaps back, "No." Every now and then, she'd have someone walking right beside her. She says the moment her story hit their ears, they bolted. She beams, explaining that finding people who accept her fills her with blazing, undeniable joy. Muir slams the question at her, "Do you know anything about your father?" And she meets him with a single, flat no. Clutching her only weapon, she watched her mother whisper one last thing before slipping away. The woman warned her that people were hunting the girl's father, so he vanished to spare them the trouble. Her expression hardens into steel as she vows to protect her Pops, the nickname she uses for her father. With iron resolve, she proclaims this is why she became stronger. The flame-haired man then reaches out and pats her head. Grinning, he gushes that she's amazing and has worked relentlessly. From the sidelines, the kid stares wide-eyed, convinced why Sean is a living legend. She drops her head toward Muir and he snaps, "What are you doing?" Arnold roars with laughter, taunting that Hero can't pull it off and that Wei wants him to pat her head. The girl snaps no and refuses instantly. Flicking his glasses up, Hera declared that Antenna Girl isn't the only one with guts, and that there are things about her he truly sympathizes with. She's the only one bold enough to seize her own life. He sneers she's doing it for praise, and Arnold erupts into an argument. You freeze. The girl shrugs and insists it's fine, just like Hera said. Gripping her weapon, she snapped, "I didn't set out on this journey to be praised." She keeps her head bowed before the hero, and he snaps, "Why are you still doing that?" "Lovely," she breathes, craving nothing but his hand to pat her head. Mirror froze, shock ripping through it as Wise audacity slammed into view. Hera shot back at Muir, voice icy. "I have no reason to do that." Curiosity crackling, she tilts her head and asks what she must do to get him to pat her. She snaps that she never wanted that in the first place. Not a single question left his lips about why you had to do it. He slammed his gaze into the girl's bright eyes. He finally cracks and gives in. He dared her to pull off something spectacular, and if she does, he'll consider it. Electric with excitement, she vows she'll give it everything she's got. Right now, the Hyrule comrades have blasted their way up to level 30. Momentum has exploded forward. After the meal, the four of them stride off together, shoulder to shoulder. Will snaps his head back. Mira asks her if something's bothering her, and she, choosing her own path, spins the other way and plunges deeper into the forest. Arnold bolts after her when a wounded, wolf-like creature hurtles into view. He blurts that it's a flying wolf, and she gasps that its wound is terrible. Analyzing, the camera locks onto the flying wolf and snaps that, if its readout's right, it's a rank B, Muir confirms, voice low and sure. That's a terrifyingly strong monster, and we can help it. He cracked the air with a spell and snapped at Antenna Girl to step aside. Then the child looks up and pleads, "Is Hero going to help it?" The red-haired man sneered, convinced Hyro wouldn't lift a finger for anyone unless he walked away with something in return. Right then, the protagonist blows everyone's minds, revealing the wolf is completely healed. Shock slammed into the red-haired man as he lunged at Hero, grilling him about what he'd done, snarling that he'd never pull a stunt like this without expecting something in return and demanding an explanation. The boy leaned in and blurted, "Are you okay?" then fired off urgent probing questions. He hurls questions at you as you tend the creature, sneering that he'll never understand. Harrow slid his glasses into place and proclaimed, "Their cool appearance is justice." He lights up. He loves dogs and had to see how it moved. Arnold snaps, asking if Hera's generous act sprang from his own cravings, like the impulse he feels when he eats books. And Muriel answers yes. Cradling the wolf, why does she burst into gratitude? Hirothan waves off their thanks. "No need to thank me," he snaps, and it's exactly what the old man said. He sank to his knees and nursed the wolf back to health, purely because he wanted to. Right then the girl dared the weakened wolf to try running a little. It forced itself into a trembling run, and the protagonist watched, completely blown away by how cool it was. I watched the child's face snap into sudden understanding. Hiro-san actually flashes a grin like that? A red-haired man strides up to the child and snaps, "Are you running a fever or feeling feverish?" He declares the wolf is hell-bent on going somewhere. Mira snaps, "Why even say sand if you can understand the wolf?" And the girl shuts her eyes and whispers, "I can't." If it's serious, hurl trembling questions at them, and declares she was a downright strange girl. She choked out that many of her wolf friends had been slaughtered and the place swarmed with other monsters. They chugged a bizarre drug, their bodies warped and remade. Then they lunged and sank their teeth into others. Her voice cracks. Only his family are still alive. The red-haired man scoffed, saying the wolf must have torn that wound into itself while thrashing to break free. She screams, "The wolf says he wants to save us!" She plants her feet, locks eyes, and proclaims this is where they part ways. The red-haired man snapped, "Why are you suddenly going to help a monster?" She snaps, "I'm not helping a monster, I'm helping his family." The man calls out the bite in her tone, then concedes the pet has no obligation. The girl snaps, "It has nothing to do with that." She's helping by choice. She knows a family is stronger together. A jolt of realization rips through the red-haired man. Y is out searching for her father. Vaulting onto the wolf, she snapped, "Don't follow, stay back and leave everything to me." She grins and says it was short, but every moment crackled with fun. She flashes a bright smile at the trio and thanks them, gratitude shining through every word. She rockets away astride the winged wolf. Just then, the child's cry ripped through the air, calling to the red-haired man. She confesses she's weak and curses the words that spilled from her mouth. Crime declares she wants to help Waisan and the wolf. She confesses she can't fight like him. Heroics just aren't in her. She can't pretend this isn't happening. The hero leans in, voice low and sharp, and snaps at the old man. "Do you know we're being followed?" Arnold snaps. He'd already seen it. The boy won't lift a finger unless there's something in it for him. He snarls that because of this he won't drag the boy along and charges off toward Seeker. Smiling, Arnold declares he loved every second of their journey and insists the boy is a force to be reckoned with. He admits he'd be tormented at the thought of dragging them deeper into his reckless whims. At the agreed time, the man thundered that they'd accept the answer, come what may. Silence shatters as the boy snaps. "This reminds me, I owe you a favor, old man." Memory hits him. The brutal day they went toe-to-toe with that pompadour man. He swears he'll wipe out his debt, and when that last payment lands, he won't owe a thing. He warns that if the man loses anything again, he'll have to craft something worthy to make amends. A memory slams into him. What Arnold said about the Seeker. It hit him. This place was a gauntlet built to test monsters. Then it has to be stuffed with valuable materials and books. So the three surged forward to help. Why? Meanwhile, the girl clings to her winged wolf as they tear across the sky, both perched atop a fence outside what looked like a headquarters. She gazes at her wolf and christens him Elado, the name sliding off her tongue like it was carved for him. They launch themselves over the fence, hurtling straight for their objective. At the same time, a man perches in some sort of office. The bespectacled man bellowed up at the boss riding the eagle, demanding he wake up. He hoisted some donuts to his nose, letting their sugary scent explode into his nostrils. A sharp smell ripped him from sleep. Seething, the man growls at Paven, "This is cruel. One day we'll turn you into candy and eat you." Cutting the chatter, the bang-swept boy snaps that he has a report for the man. He explains they've reloaded the species roster. Now only flying wolves remain. He snarls that one of them always slips away, reveals the organization's contacts are on the verge of finding out, and presses him. "Do you want to open negotiations with them?" The man scoffs, calls it a hassle, and admits he doesn't much care for those people. Paven snarled that if he can't cut deals and is left to follow his whims, he'll hoard every sweet for himself. Suddenly, a frantic beeping exploded into their ears, an alarm screaming to life. A subordinate barrels in, breathless and shouting, "Intruder! The magic reactor's readings just spiked!" The flying wolf tore free, and a second voice claims it might actually be a human. Leaping into the conversation, the man demands, "Can we take them alive? This is our best chance to find out what's really going on." The bespectacled man barked, "It's still out of control!" Menace radiated off him as the boss snarled that failure is the lifeblood of every experiment. Meanwhile, deep inside the prison where the animals pace and press against cold bars, trapped and desperate, each of them was hurled into a barrage of twisted experiments that warped their bodies and minds. The intruder thunders they'll raze this place to the ground. Right then, someone burst into the prison room. They hailed it as a one-of-a-kind guess, jaws dropping when the intruder turned out to be a little girl. Their breath caught. Aside from the flying wolf they'd mentioned, they never imagined it'd swoop back here just to be tested. Colleen, a colossal fool, the morph bursts into a deep, menacing growl. In a heartbeat, it lunges at the man with full, crushing force. A blinding surge of electricity rips through it, electrocuting it instantly. He grinned and declared, "That's unfortunate. Because of this, the wolf will never be able to get near me again." Wim charges at the wolf, bellowing, "Lido!" And Amanda snaps, warning her she'll get zapped too if she touches He booms that he's the head of the Seeker Laboratory, then drops his name, Negula. She also strides forward, eyes alight, and declares, "I'm Y. Curious?" The head's eyes flicker as he murmurs he might have seen her somewhere before. He scoffs, brushes it off with a cold, "It doesn't matter," then snaps his fingers. I pried open a hidden floor hatch and watched the wolf crash through into the dark below. She explodes, hurling bastard straight at him. An order sliced through the air, demanding he return a lotto. A wicked grin splits his face as he snarls that if she so much as moves, he'll have that wolf killed. Wei snarled, "I won't let that happen." The head thundered she'd have to accept his conditions. Agree, and he swore the flying wolf would be spared. She pressed him for certainty, and he promised. Because hesitation knots our guts, we force out the question. What are the conditions? Not long after, the girl found herself ensnared. Inside a strange ice chamber, shoulder to shoulder with a pack of other monsters. Her eyes lock on them, and the truth hits her like a thunderbolt. They seem cut from the flying wolf's bloodline. Her gaze snaps to the many outer enclosures stretching out before her. Even the wolf's been ensnared by some kind of... The net snaps her temper. Rage flares and she grits her teeth. She gritted her teeth and swore the wolf could wait. Nagla sweeps her gaze across the chaos and snaps, "There's a living crit." He revealed the wolf was trapped inside the black box and vowed that if the girl won, he'd rip it free from the net. Uncover why she swore she'd save it. Right then, the black box shuddered as spiderweb cracks raced across its surface. A colossal demonic beast can erupt from the shadows. Grinning, he dares her to unleash the madness clawing at her heart and dubs it the Black Chimera. The demonic beast's hide convulses on the verge of... A deafening roar rips the air, and the girl breaks into sobs. Several towering serpents lunge at her, coils snapping and fangs bared. Razor-quick reflexes, Wei cleaves down every snake that lunges at her. She chokes out an apology to the monsters. She channels her power and erupts into a blazing, human-shaped torch. She unleashes the 5th stage attack. Flames screamed inward, forming a blazing core that detonated and tore the monster to shreds. The bespectacled boy shouts she actually pulled it off. The black shimmer screaming she's probably rank S. Then the director snaps they're still hammering away at it, warning that at this level of damage, Tremora still knits its wounds back together. When the smoke finally clears, they gape as the monsters stitch themselves back together. His eyes slam to his watch as the bull-cut-haired boy warns the director that if this drive keeps running, they'll lose control of the Black Chimera. Snapping his fingers, a man snarls, "They'll have to use that." He jabbed a finger at the girl and demanded, she should snap her focus and lock her gaze over there. Outside the enclosure, a claw inched forward, closing the distance. They cock a syringe, ready to inject its contents. Plunged into a lotto, irritation flared. Why's the man swearing he made a promise? She parries the attack, her spear flashing up to fend off the strike. He slams to the ground, yelling that she almost dodged the blow in time. Wounded, the girl drives her spear into the ground and fights to haul herself upright, agony flaring with every heave. Her vision frays into a blur. Everything blurs and she snaps her head up to find a towering monster staring straight at her. She crashed to the ground and realized her limbs wouldn't obey. She was frozen, unable to move. Then the head snarled that poison had paralyzed her body. and warned that if he dies, the chimera's deadly venom in its blood will erupt within seconds. Dread explodes in her gut. She knows now it's going to end badly no matter what she does. Just then, several figures exploded into action. Wolves burst into a united, spine-tingling chorus of howls. He clamped his hands over his ears and bellowed, "It's too loud!" Ian roared, ordering the black chimera to tear those noisy mutts apart now. Answering its master's command, the black chimera rockets forward, jaws snapping as it tears into the wolves. Desperation claws at Wib as he screams for it to stop. Right then, every last drop of the creature's blood gushed free. Your eyes lock on it, splattered across the area. Laughin cackled, shoved the chimera forward, and barked for it to finish that person the same brutal way it had with the others. The monster lunges forward, closing in on the paralyzed girl. Tremors rack her as she clutches the spear. She snaps upright and sinks a lethal strike into the monster. The strike detonates like a thunderbolt, pure earth-shattering force. The impact detonates outward, battering even the people outside the enclosure. Terror seizes everyone because it still writhes, able to move. Right then, she strikes the monster again. They landed the fatal blow, then crumpled to the ground. Sprawled on the ground, she pleads forgiveness from the Lotto. Her voice cracked as she admitted she couldn't protect everyone. His survival hinges on one thing. He has to sprint. Still laughing, the man snapped his fingers and dragged Peven's gaze straight to him. He admits the woman couldn't muster the killing blow on the chimera. Peven snaps it's like a candle burning hotter and hotter. Then he turns to the director and warns they've lost control of the black chimera. He bellows, "The situation's starting to Everything careened headlong into chaos. Rage boiling in its veins, the chimera hurtles straight at the girl. It rockets forward, lashing out with a scorpion-like appendage, then prop. It lunges, seemingly injecting its venom into her once more. A ladder suddenly launches into the air. He hurled himself in front of her to protect her. He gaped. What happened to the iron net? And his subordinate grimly said the last attack seemed to have shattered it. The man dropped to one knee beside the wolf. Demand an answer. Why didn't this happen sooner? Masquerading as the wolf, he vows to sprint straight to his friend's side. The wolf's howl tears through the night, shouting the reason to live. It crumples and slams into the ground. The girl burst into an apology to Alado, words tumbling out in a desperate rush. He scratches his nose, declares this a very sad farewell, then states that today's meeting is a farewell too. An unavoidable fate tightens its grip on this world. Comments erupt, gushing that her golden eyes are utterly satisfying. His subordinate snaps at the director to quit fixating on his nose and look to the side. Right then, the Gorona Fury tore into view before them. She sweeps it aside, her gaze heavy with murderous intent. Earlier that night, Arnold blurted out that this, a being's voice, not Lotto's, screamed they had to hurry, and the protagonist spotted a hole in the fence, insisting the antenna girl probably made it. The red-haired man snapped, "Muir, get into the shadows and wait!" The child yanks on her uncle's sleeve, imploring to come with them, eyes blazing as she snaps, "Is it impossible?" Anoy's voice tightened as he admitted he had no clue what dangerous things lurked there, so he flat out said no. The black-haired boy smirks and says she's welcome to come along if she wants. Arnold barks at Hiro, "Do you even realize how dangerous this place is?" Haru snaps, "You came for me, so you'll listen to what I want." He demands to know whether Arnold plans to shield her from every harm and let her only ever see the good in life as she grows. Harris declares it's none of his business, but he insists she'll be better for plunging into a wide variety of experiences. He's convinced this is vital, and he lays it out that even if she ends up regretting it, she holds the choice, and his only job is to throw his weight behind her, whatever she chooses. He knows this is a road of no return, and a voice insists giving up is his only way out, and the idea hits him like a punch to the gut, leaving him reeling. He vows to reject any path someone else dares to pick for him. He insists that if disappointment ever comes, it will be over something he chose himself, so he can never be completely disappointed. The red-haired man snaps, "I understand." He then barks at Mirror, "Stay with them. Don't ever stray, no matter what happens." The red-haired man grins and urges everyone to slip through the window, but the protagonist unleashes his word vision. He locks onto a barrier, standard security for a facility like this. He vows to remain unseen, slipping like a shadow past every watchful eye. Right then, he unleashes a skill that rips a gaping hole straight through the barrier. Bewildered, the red-haired man barked that asking what had just happened would be useless. Sometime later, they find themselves inside the cell. They crept through the facility as the protagonist's imagination ignited. flooding their mind with feverish visions. They tore through those bodies and scrawled frantic notes, yet all their work turned up almost nothing. They scanned the area with razor focus, locking onto every scrap of detail. Hiro's eyes snapped to the person nearby. He melted into the shadows, every step a masterclass in stealth. A blur of honed technique, he pounces and captures the man. He'd slammed him into the wall, pinning him in ice with a p. The man barked, "Who are you?" Hyrule snapped his sword up, leveled the blade at him, and spat a command for silence. He snaps at the man. "Answer what they ask, and the truth will hit you." Hyrule cuts in, demanding to know if the golden-haired girl and the blue wolf are here. Arnold peered out the window and saw a huge, blazing full moon staring back. He roars they have to hurry because they must stop. Why? But the boy with glasses says he still has a question to ask. When the interrogation fell silent, it finally slid into the location. Suddenly, the lab director spins, eyes blazing, and snaps, "Who are you?" Patience snapped. Arnold barked, "Move!" and coiled to strike. In a heartbeat, she pinned them both to the wall, her grip like iron holding them fast. Right then, a deafening roar split the air. They burst onto the scene. They stand amid smoking ruins, shouting for answers. What could have ripped everything apart? The throne, blazing with rage and drenched in sorrow, demands to know what was done to his body. It warns that on full moon nights these surge with power, roaring far stronger than usual. The rule slams down on everyone. Even hybrids with beastkin blue aren't spared. They seize the awakening of external force to explode into beastification. Rare hybrids have perfected that feral shift and unleash their beast form at will. Most hybrids have never faced a power like this, so they snap, losing control in an instant. If she laid eyes on this, it meant power had flooded into her, turning her into a force to be feared. This confirmed exactly what they already knew, and it ripped her composure apart. Soon, beastification surged through her, ripping away every scrap of control. They warn the girl is probably unconscious now, and Arnold's daughter pronounces Wei condemned to endless sorrow. Determined, she declares she'll go and fix her, but Arnold lunges in, yanking her back and barking, "Stay back!" A wire sprang into view. They charged in, primed to strike. He lunges with a sword to shield his daughter, and still he blocks her. The attack detonates with savage force, catapulting him far away. He snapped his gaze to the side. Monster Burl's eyes snapped to the prot. The protagonist's presence erupted, and he barreled straight toward him. He sidesteps, saying she'll strike him. Wielding his magic, he sneers that attacks this crushing will leave her unable to strike again for ages, then orders her to surrender. She blinks out of his sight in an instant. Perched atop the building, she zeroes in on the boy below. Heart pounding, the hero blurts, "She's insanely fast," and the task will kick off. Meanwhile, mounted on the wall, the laboratory's chief snapped awake and gasped. "I finally remember!" His eyes snap. He insists he must have seen the spear user somewhere before. Rampaging gorillas and towering elephants besieged the village. A spear-wielding girl stood mere steps away. She storms back into the village, hauling two monsters, a 10-year-old who single-handedly felled them and lugged their bodies home. And get this, that very day she devoured both of them. He gaped. How could she cram that much meat into such a tiny body? His subordinate scoffs. Her appetite's really that legendary, it'll make her famous? The chief's eyes flash as he declares, "I remember her name. Shoes Winka, level 77. They roar to life, daring anyone to stand in their way." Nervous, the boy swallowed hard and warned, "You don't see levels like that every day. One hit and we're done." He spun back and demanded, "Are you still alive?" The old man snapped, "I am." He throws his head back and spits. This is tough, as beastification floods him, catapulting his strength past its usual limits. The boy snapped at the old man that they had to leave at the same time, and right then the red-haired man warned Harrow they were up against Y. He bellows they must dodge like their lives depend on it. The protagonist snaps, "I really don't want that thing to kill me." Mid-sentence, the girl lunges at Arnold, who somehow pulls off the defense. Seeing this, the boy pleaded with the old man to hold on a little longer. He intones a spell and sears stop onto his sword. The man screamed, "I can't move!" Observing as a permanent, Hyra's breath hitches. She realizes she just dodged from a blind spot. Her instincts cut straight to the truth, razor sharp. He fires off a frantic apology to Arnold, begging him to hang on for a moment. He leans toward it and vows, "Don't worry, this'll be back to normal before you know it." As he speaks, a plan snaps into place, and he tells the old man he can restore the girl to normal. There's one catch. He confesses he can't bring himself to strike her. Enter the old man. He pins her motionless, even for a heartbeat, while he reveals the word's origin. He swears that if he can land it, it'll work. Arnold hisses that immobilizing Y in this state is nearly impossible. Eden snaps. Can the boy really bring her back to normal in this condition? He admits flat out that it seems impossible, at least for normal beings. The boy grins and vows to warp them with his magic. From the background, Mira bursts in, yelling that they have to let her help too. The red-haired man snarled, "Not now! You's gone insane and she outmatches every one of us." Pinned down what the girl means when she claims she knows she's weakness gnawed at them, yet their heart thundered. They had to do something for Wee-san. Arnold crouches beside her, meets her eyes, and says fiercely, "I get it. I'm an ancient girl myself." She had to bolt, right now. Snap back at the mirror that dares to ask, "Why are you crying?" Crushed by guilt and drowning in sorrow, she suddenly senses something barreling straight toward her. Surprise? Arnold, her nemesis, creeps into her emotions. She can feel him. You remember her smile burning bright. That grin was how she used to be. She couldn't even lift her voice for herself before, and now she groans non-stop. He sprang to his feet, snapping that if that's the case, he wouldn't stop her. They're in combat now, and she can't do a thing in a fight. Everything Y feels floods through her. The three of them steel themselves, grips tightening and eyes blazing as they prepare for battle. The protagonist then proclaims she's on her way. At the same time, Majula cuts in, eyes flashing. If his memory's right, her name's something like Whiskey Tin. A subordinate scoffs, pointing out the oddity. For him to show interest in her, he either wiped her name from his mind or tattooed it there. It's definitely one of the two. Suddenly, someone bursts in and corners the director, demanding to know exactly what's going on. He snorts. Being part of a wall is a hobby? That's gloriously bizarre. The boy with bangs blurts a frantic, "Sorry," admitting he's wedged in the wall after an unforeseen mishap. Observing them, the man narrows his eyes and concludes it's a group led by a red-hooded boy and a shorts-clad girl with yellow hair. He smirks and quips that the director's been stuck with a handful of troublesome guests. Confusion flares in the director. He falters, wondering what he's even saying. The footed boy snaps, voice like a blade. Winka of the Moonlight is their target and greatest enemy. He shrugs, saying it might be pure luck that these urgent matters just exploded onto the scene. The perspectacled boy's eyes sharpen as he registers this person's relentless diligence. His boss sneers he can't see the appeal of working for an outfit like this. His subordinates snap back. It's the wrath of the Peacekin. A voice growled to him. That's the Beastkin's shadow. Meanwhile, Arnold lunges, colliding with the girl in a fierce clash. We pulled it off. We dodged it. A red-haired man materialized directly behind her. Lunging to seize her throat and pin her in place, he sneers that Hero's magic he's definitely unique. He shouts speed and surges faster. Despite his speed, the girl's tail lashed out on instinct and seized the man's hand. She then slams it hard onto the ground and readies himself to finish it in one savage strike. A frantic voice from the background tore through the silence, screaming, "Don't do it!" The child grabs Way's sleeve, pleading, "They're not your enemies!" "Guys, explain yourselves. Why Arnold and Hiro?" Her eyes snap to the side. The wolf lies fallen, lifeless. That snapped her. Just as she lunged to finish the old man, she exploded in a savage outburst. She lunges with a bone-crushing punch to his stomach, the force cracking the ground beneath them. The blow hits like a wrecking ball, blood gushing from his body. Her eyes snap wide. Shock slams into her and knocks the wind from her, and bolts toward Y, intent on saving the man. A brutal strike fells her, crashes to the ground. Injured and crying, she screamed Wysam's name. She crumples, sobs ripping through her as tears streak down her face too. Startled, the child's breath hitched as the truth slammed into them. Wysam bears the heaviest burden of pain. She strode toward this girl, heart hammering, vowing she wouldn't be mistaken as, "You can't bring yourself to hate Wisan." Courage blazing, she edges forward, one resolute step at a time. She stormed into the comments, asking the girl if she was sad and insisting she must be suffering. She presses her hand to her face and whispers, "It's okay." She locks eyes and declares she's not scared. He pulled her into a fierce embrace as a blinding light burst to life around them. Mirror snaps to Wysan. "They're waiting for you." She declared she must reclaim her kindness. After this, she stepped forward and choked out a trembling apology to everyone. A gentle light wraps the two in a soft halo as the protagonist watches. "We beg everyone's forgiveness." The pompadour man grins and declares she has nothing to fear. Harrow's magic already healed him. The girl kept choking out apologies. She never meant to hurt anyone, yet her body mutinied despite every desperate attempt to rein it in. Wiz says when Mir pulled her into a hug, a warm rush hit her, that let her slip back to normal. Cheeks aflame, she pinned her ears low. The protagonist's thoughts slammed into one burning question. What happened to the small girl as sparks of light burst from her ears, showering the air like shattered stars? The old man steels himself, plants his feet, and shoulders full responsibility. They howled that if they'd reached them sooner, the flying wolves could have been saved. Stad burst out that they should build a beautiful grave for the wolves, and shockingly, everyone agreed. Why did they all go along? Two men swore to raze the entire facility to the ground. Suddenly, something shivers to life in the fallen wolf's belly. A winged wolf pup bursts into the world from his mother's cold, lifeless body. She locks eyes with Winger and vows, "I'll protect your pup." The strange man sneered that he didn't care about this drama. The girl holding the baby in her hands exploded with anger, her grip tightening and fury flaring in her eyes. He snapped at her not to push herself after plunging into berserk like this. The damage she takes will be devastating. He cackles at them, calls it brave, snarls that their state won't change a thing, then crushes the button beneath his thumb. They swore they'd sink into the earth with this place. Buried side by side, everything detonates, shattering the silence into a thunderous, world-rattling roar. A hail of stones crash down, and Hyrak, a protective barrier, flares into existence. The pig-nosed man staggered back, eyes wide, bellowing, "What twisted magic lets the protagonist fend off attacks like that?" The little girl screams, "He's wrong!" In this world, every ounce of effort you pour in forges the future. Nothing is wasted. Matt hurled himself at it and brutally earned the jeers. Effort doesn't always win you anything. Mirror roars that growth demands you push yourself to the limit. She thundered that no strength is ever wasted, and her friends roared their agreement. Rage roars in the villain, and his underling says that if he's about to press that button, both of them must bolt out of here, right now. The director confesses he'd been desperate to watch them crush it, shrugs, spits a cold goodbye, slams the button and bolts away. Everything crumbled in an instant, the world tearing itself apart. Hyra screams for him to bolt through Building B. Meanwhile, he's not done. He's got unfinished business in Building A. Mir's father glared, voice razor flat. "What sort of business do you have?" It hit me. Could this all trace back to when he spoke with that researcher? A flashback snaps in as the protagonist pins a researcher, snarling and demanding the lab's library and the locations of any research facilities. The researcher snaps, "Room S, at the very end of the hallway in Building A." Akumara snapped, "It's really not in Building B?" And they fired back that Building B is where new drums and equipment are developed. Snapping back to the present, the old man roars that no matter what this situation throws at them, the protagonist digs his heels in and demands a vow to come back alive. He orders him to beat them outside. The instant they slip away, Hyrule locks onto his mission and storms straight into the reference room. Normally, he lingered, stretching each second out as long as he pleased. He barely has time to move when a deafening blast rips toward the old man. The object streaks past them, and he implores the two. They shouted they were okay. A tremor seizes the pup, its tiny body shaking. Their verdict slams down. It's poisoned too, just like its mother. Mirror snaps that the antidote must be in Building B. It's the lab where they develop the drugs. Wee nods, steel in his voice. He'll stop at nothing to save the pup. Harrow staggers beneath a mountain of gear strapped to his back. The boy swears he can ride the hole to surge through the rocks. If that tumor caves in, hell's about to rain down. His writing will crush him. Staggy scrawls fly, and it rockets off. He realizes that whenever he launched into the sky with his power, it's handy, but don't burst into a victory dance yet, and plunges into a relentless search, scrambling to snatch the landing spot in Building B. Searching the shadows, his gaze snapped to a cluster of hooded figures. Time's running out. He must track down the old man's group, and fast. Meanwhile, the group hunts down the right medicine. The protagonist unearths a jaw-dropping truth. He demands them, then bluntly scribbles, "Purified." He mended it in a heartbeat for the pup. They finally reunite, only for his cape to snag. A merciless inferno devoured everything he owned. The coded men fan out, launching a manhunt to track down everyone. The group resolves to feast, juicy pork seared to a golden crust and drenched in a zesty lemon sauce. They tore into their food, grins wide, swapping a quick, cheerful chat. They hurled name after name at the little wolf until someone dared the pup to choose. The pup barrels toward him, marked for padding. There are other remarks he can't just brush off with. She reaches out and gets slammed with a cold, blunt reply. He won't do that for her. He declares Winger is nothing but a pet, so she'll have to pull off a jaw-dropping feat. Her father snaps that he was the one who found Winger and rips open the reason they're here. She could hear Winger's voice roaring, proof she'd just pulled off something legendary. Convinced? Hieropaths reveal themselves as utter asses. If that seals the deal, the girl fires back. It's good! Jealousy claws at Murget, ripping his calm to shreds. They froze, struck by how spectacular it looked. Her father rips the truth open and explains why she never had parents who could do that for her. It clicks for her. She gets exactly what he means. Meal finished, they sprint to the sink and dive into scrubbing the dishes. We pressed Muir on whether it was nice and got an answer. She blasts out a reply, demanding Hyro do it for her too. Mirror, cheeks burning, confesses she hasn't done anything to deserve it. Then lights up and says it'd be amazing if he had. She pushes herself to the brink so defeat can't touch her. Her father stands breathless, admiration roaring in his chest at his daughter's relentless dedication. In a forest with secrets poised to explode, human minds scour the world for them. Back with the group, the map slams down one truth. Surge is the nearest city. That's the next stop they're racing toward. Hold up, first they'll have to throw down. The whole crew charges headlong into a showdown with towering cacti. A whisper of torment grazed the man's spots. They melt into the shadows, dodging every gaze. He reaches out, every nerve fired, determined to make contact with them. They plunge into Surge, the streets roaring as a raucous festival unfolds. They grabbed a room at the inn for the day and dove headfirst into every glittering second of the festival. Our hero has never ever set foot in a festival. Right before he can crown the idea cool, but the crowd surges and squeezes, and the heat sears every breath into a fight. The old man flashes a twinkling grin, sweeps their scowls aside, and drags them into the festival until their faces crack into grins. He points to jam-packed stalls slinging mouth-watering dishes. Then sprint and snatch your share before the food disappears. The herald slipped into a trance, his mind drowning in glittering festival dreams. He stumbled and his shoe slammed onto a child's foot. Horror ripped through him. It tore through her composure, ripping tears from her eyes. He freezes, nerves igniting as people turn to stare. The mood flips on a dime when the girl's father finds his stall hawking grinning sharks. A line snakes around the block. When people wait like that, the food has to be legendary. The old man leans forward and tells Hero that happy sharks roam the great blue sea in pitch-dark depths, rarely breach the surface, and are completely pink from snout to tail. They rarely breach sea level. Every inch from the green, jade-like horn crowning their head down to their teeth is edible. Rumor says the whole beast can be eaten, and the protagonist asks, voice flat and uninterested, "Is it any good?" The old man locks eyes with Okamura, compares it to when they ate aquatic dogs, and declares it's even better. Hyrule practically squealed, urging him to buy some on the spot. Their gaze snaps to a lottery system. Each person is granted just one shot, and 8 people stand in line. The old man grimly admits they might not be able to get any. The boy snaps, "Don't joke. If something better than aquatic dogs is waiting up ahead and you're already suggesting giving up with that massive line stretching forever, they probably won't make it. It's common sense." Seething with fury, the protagonist roared that he'd shatter common sense. Plotting his next move, he toys with speaking a single word to bend the lottery to his will. But which word? He knows luck won't help, and forcing the machine could jar it and send every ball spilling out. So that's off the table. He gauges the odds. Can this succeed? If Hiratard is the box marked with a word, it'll scream for attention, and he'll exploit it. He implored them to join hands to swing the odds in their favor. Their turn's about to hit, but 4 still stand between them and their moment. He unleashed his magic on them. They weaponized just to be safe, and it landed like a cruel, unfair blow. He barked, "Talk less, eat more," as he savored the mouth-watering shark meat. He tastes the ocean in the air. The meat yields under his fork. Crunchy vegetables snap beside it. Sweet and sour sauce glazes everything, and toasted bread soaks up every bite. This meal dazzles. 2 girls shower him with thanks, and he shrugs, flashing a carefree grin as he says, "No problem." The old man declared the time had come to explain his magic. They press him for exactly what he writes and how the effects take hold, and he growls that Hyro merely bent luck to his will. Hyra shoots back, "Yes," and bam! this sandwich was born. He figures a quick explanation won't hurt. He boasts his gift, word magic. Every native word he inks springs to life, its power obeying the word's very definition. The old man admits he's never laid eyes on those kinds of characters, but he's heard whispers of other strange magics. He leans in and says it could be one of the most powerful magics, and the protagonist snaps, "What kinds of magic?" The old man spat out spells that bend space, an incantation that scrambles minds, and sorcery that turns monsters into puppets. He asked if Hiro could channel those magics through his word magic, and Hiro snarled that it might be omnipotent. But omnipotent doesn't mean invincible. The old man snaps, "What do you mean by that?" Okamura snaps, "There's no reason to tell him." The old man, seething, grudgingly nods and admits Hiro wouldn't show his weaknesses to anyone. That's how it works, and since he's running on empty, he's barreling toward the end. The old man throws up his hands with a crooked grin and declares to the girls he's fine with whatever they want to do. They brag they've been having an absolute blast. Everyone streams into the inn and is greeted with open arms and warm, beaming smiles. The receptionist is a dead ringer for Victoria's Guild receptionist. Then she flashes a sly grin and drops the bomb. She's her older sister. She snaps that the inn's rooms are almost all taken, so they turn to a guild room. And with the festival today, the guild will lend it to them for just one day. Everyone sinks into their seats as the room holds its breath. Beats sleeping outside, hands down. We huddle, sketch the plan, and lock down the visa we'll need to cross the border. 3 of them clutched visas like trophies. The protagonist stood empty-handed. A visa nowhere in sight. The guild issues the views. Ask for them, and they'll hand them over. But it grinds along, chewing up time as it processes. Normally, you have to file the request at both the guild and the king's territory in the human lands, and the whole mess drags on for about a week. It's shuttled off from the guild and human territory for review, and once it's approved, the guild master must seal their consent before it's issued. The protagonist grimaces that it sounds like a tangled mess. Rumor names the guildmaster as one of the 3 SSF rank human adventurers, and with extraordinary abilities and massive popularity, their raw strength rivals a beast king. Hours later, the spotlight lands on the Victoria's Guild. The old man's voice cracked. "It's been ages since I last saw him." The knight concedes, voice rough and low, that it's been far too long. The old man snaps his name like a command. "Shoot him," he barks, demanding. "Is that young man really a famed captain now?" The young man snaps, "The old man hasn't changed at all." In the room, the elder waves him to a seat and snaps, "You hardly ever come here. What's going on?" He confessed he'd come to beg the guildmaster for a favor. Unfazed by the request, the elder brushes it off, declares he's retired, and passes the front lines to the younger generation. The boy gapes as the old man's words slide right past him. He can't grasp their meaning. Even now he towers over every adventurer. None can eclipse him. The retired hero brushes off the praise like dust, insisting they're giving him way too much credit. He cuts in, eyes blazing. "I've heard the rumors. Are they true?" This is the era of hero summoning. The boy snaps, "That's exactly why I'm here." The old man shoved the front lines onto the young, but he's itching to pull that man aside and beg him to teach them how to fight. It's for the future of the humankins. Smoke curls as the elder draws on his pipe and rasps, He never confessed the hunger that pushed him to seize the guildmaster's mantle. He throws it into the open, trusting the guildmaster can wield the exact authority reserved for emergencies. When he was an adventurer, the old man raged at why the continent never stopped tearing itself apart. People prayed every day for someone to bring peace to the world, and finally he stormed into battle to protect everything he treasured. He asks the knight what he thinks the guildmaster of that time did, and the knight snarls that the master weaponized his power, deserted his country, and fled to save his own skin. After that, the adventurer's chain of command unraveled into chaos, and many lives that could have been saved were snuffed out. At that moment, desperation ignited. He vowed to grow terrifyingly strong and seize the guildmaster's seat so the king would grant him the power to unleash drastic measures during emergencies. It thrust him into the role of the country's second king. He snaps, certain the king has blundered again. Shock, the knight demanded of the old man. "What do you mean?" The elder's voice thundered. "Why did the king sacrifice 3 of his own daughters?" He dares to hope. Someone might still be alive right now. He pressed his case, declaring the country teetered on the brink, then warned the king one vital task had to be finished before the heroes could be summoned. That thing? It revealed itself as the peace treaty with the Demunkins. He demanded to know why it was rejected. The old man snaps at the knight. Those higher-ups probably buried the whole thing, so you were kept in the dark. The boy snarls that even if it's true, trusting the Demunkins is impossible. Trudum nods, feeling his fear, but insists they open dialogue because there must be other ways that don't end with sacrificing their daughters. The boy swore his majesty was racked with distress at having to carry it out. Seething, the old man's face snapped into a hard mask, and he bellowed that no one could simply mourn their daughter's death. Panic slammed into the boy when he recognized it. The iron will of a retired adventurer. The old man barked that if someone had told him he'd have gone, no matter where the conference was. And he insisted there are good beastkins and demonkins, even if people don't realize it. The boy snaps, insisting the Demunkin king still plots to wipe the humankin kingdom off the map. The retired hero growled, "The demonkins have a new king now." He explains that when the king changes, policies snap into new shapes. And it was this new king who planted the idea of the peace tree. The king tears open a portal, hauls strangers from another world through it, and admits he hasn't the slightest clue how other realms work. He couldn't imagine the summoning caring enough about the country to stake their life on it. As far as he knew, the summoned person stormed off, sneering that they weren't bound to obey the king's orders. The old man proclaims he trusts that person more than the heroes, and the young man's jaw drops. He shot to his feet from his chair and snapped that the boy's failure to understand only proved he was still inexperienced. He dismisses him with the curt wave, ordering him to wrestle with real solutions now. It's his turn to stand before the king and advise. The old man stares out the window, jaw set, fury and sorrow knotting his gut. How can anyone save the world if others won't listen to what they have to say? Meanwhile, Arnold leans in and reveals the retired man once roamed the world as an adventurer, dubbed the King of Impact, an absolute legend. Elkamer recommends he not expect to witness someone stripped of status and prestige. The redhead snaps. He's not that kind of man, confessing an old man once took him in and cared for him. Arms folded, Harrow sneered that he didn't care the other was more worried about how to cross the border. And even if he could help, he's certain it'd take forever. Right then, Arnold's voice tore through the silence as he shouted to, "Why? Want to cross the border with me?" She blurts, "Can I?" They talk, and the girl declares she wants to be with every single one of them. He murmured it with a sweet, disarming look. Then a blade plunged straight into his heart. We scoop up the little wolves and shout, "You're coming with us!" At that moment, the warrior slammed his fist down and roared he'd settle Hero's border problem himself. The protagonist's eyes snap to the perp, locking on like a hunter sighting prey. She snaps that she has almost no options left. She can just take to the skies and fly over the border. Arnold blurts he can fly and fumes that it's totally unfair, and the girl snaps that showing off would draw way too much attention. Dodge it at every turn. Stay as far away as you can. She swears they're already clued into every move the group has made. Here they're diving headfirst into that crew that stalks bee-skins prowls like predators. Every step demands razor-sharp caution. Someone bursts into the room and asks for permission. He flashes a grin, says he assumed you'd be alone here, and lights up, thrilled to have your company. He strides forward and tosses out his name like a challenge. "I'm Tene!" "Me." Every gaze snaps to him. The mysterious boy snaps. "There are tons of people out there, and an exhaust." A jolt of shock rips through Arnold as he realizes he's a beastkin. Doubt claws at the boy. Does he secretly hate having a beastkin around? Grinning, the men snap that he's got no problem, and that both he and the girl are bee-skins. Curiosity flaring, the young man blurts, "Where's the man?" His ears perk, and he launches into an explanation. The boy froze, bowed his head, and apologized, admitting he'd said something he shouldn't have. Arnold shrugged, smiled, and steered the conversation toward something less grim. Later, they regrouped to hammer out the border. Tenny leans in, voice sharp. "Those two, human cans?" The man meets his gaze and nods. They are. He exposes the hero as a mere tourist. So why's their companion even here? He laughed, sneering that being a tourist at a time like this wasn't a joke. Then the boy, flanked by the greatest assassin here, stepped up and asked the old man if he wanted to fight. He slid his glasses into place, announced who he was, and vowed to tear through anything that dared stand in his way. Tenny sneers. "He's a strange guy." Harris sneers, calling the young man strange. He blurted out his identity without even knowing who he was dealing with. Got any burning questions about how you'd react if they became part of an anti-scan group? Grinning, he snaps that it's no problem. Even if it doesn't look like it, he's dead sure he can peel away masks and see people for who they really are. Gasps ripped through the crowd. The boy swallowed hard and asked, "Was that scary?" Roaring with laughter, the old man strode up to Tinny and declared he was hilarious. The boy snaps back, "Everyone tells me that," and they both erupt into laughter. In that instant, Winka demanded, "Were you in that valley?" The question rips through the air, and the protagonist's gaze snaps to him, studying every twitch. He shot back at the voice. He snaps, "Yes," and confesses he'd been watching the group. He admits he was floored the boy had actually spotted him, and that's why he'd felt that same presence back then. Curiosity crackling, Arnold snaps, "Why are you watching us?" And the young man begins to answer. Beaming like he'd just won, he thrust the painting forward and proclaimed he'd been working on it. Seeing the artwork, the old man's eyes gleamed and he declared, "You're an incredible painter." Still, the mammoth classes insist it fails to explain why he was watching them. Laughing, the young man blushes, voice cracking with nerves as he sheepishly admits he's actually a fan of Moonlight's son. He leans in and snaps that Moonlight is her second name, a name the anti-beastkin group and veteran adventurers all know. They bore the S rank, the pinnacle reserved for fighters who stand alone outside any guild. Right then the protagonist snaps, "You didn't know?" And the old man shrugs. "I don't usually get involved with other adventurers." They had to guard both identities in shadow, never letting either truth slip out. Scanning the scene, they picked apart every threat. Hera realized he'd called himself a fan, but when he strode into the room and the antenna on him caught her eye, her excitement died. Beneath that unnerving, rock-solid calm, every instinct screams that you're dangerously suspicious. Wick bellows at the protagonist, cutting through the chaos. She senses no malice in him and says everything seems fine. A bolt of surprise hits him as he finally grasps the girl's intuition. Reliable as an antenna, he holds steady. Out of nowhere, the young man leans in and asks the hero if something's wrong. Right then, the protagonist stops dead, whatever he was doing cut off like a snapped string. He brushes it off and dives into his books, insisting it's nothing. His expression flipped into a hard mask, and he suspected this guy was hiding something. The whole crew swore loyalty to him, yet he trusts only what his own eyes witness. Anyone can turn traitor. He can only pray it doesn't blow up into a problem for his group. Rewind 7 days. Inside the human kingdom's king's chamber, victory still ringing. Someone calls attention to the border's security. Kig barked that the border hugs beeskin waters, so monsters rarely surface there. He added, the captain won't join them and vowed to foot their travel expenses. He sets his sights on using this chance to fling the group's horizons wide. At the Kane's words, the four explode with excitement, swearing they won't fail him, and the heroes surge into action. Already Doha's bridge looms at the border, ringed by armed guards, the iron link that connects human-kin territory to beeskin territory. A guard stands sentinel, sealing the area's safety. They felt safe. Then something suddenly hurtled toward them. Several carriages thundered into view at that very moment. Folson storms in, flanked by his anti-beastskin group. The guards' eyes snap to the group and they barked, "What are you doing here?" Another voice snaps, "Do you intend to enter beeskin territory?" With a mocking grin, he snaps that a mere border guard has no right to mouth such nonsense. He sneers, "Do you really expect my crew to trudge into those filth-ridden lands? That kind of idiocy isn't even funny." He lays it out. It's an investigation. Then snaps, asking if they've seen a brat in a crimson-robed traveler strides beside a beast. A child slips through. A guard snaps his gaze to his companions, and they erupt into frantic denials. Fired up? Folson burst into a crazed laugh, declaring he's right in front of them, blocking their crossing of the border and vowing to unleash a bloodbath on everyone. He snaps at the guards, ordering them to stand down and not interfere with capturing these people. They've set their sights on one brutal goal: wipe out every single bee-skin. A guard snarls, "Even if they were bee-skinned!" He refuses to let innocent people be seized, roaring that they have no consent from the kingdom for such actions. He snarls that the guards, part of the armed forces, stand to defend the border, and hisses at Folson, "Are you challenging the kingdom?" Sparks fly as a heated argument explodes between the two, their voices colliding like thunder. Lurking in the bushes, Arnold murmurs, "Looks like." Voices clash, and another young man calls out that this group's probably fighting the guards. He declared that the armed forces won't allow a beastkin to be hunted in this area, and he bellows a warning. If they clash, they'll draw in powerful monsters. The boy's jaw drops as burns that were raw minutes ago knit closed after the potions. Fire magic heals burns with blistering speed. Then the strange boy's eyes flare as he declares a daring plan and urges everyone to listen to him. Arnal bellowed Tenen's name. I was begging the universe. He couldn't be sketching anything right now. The young man fires back. I'm already doing exactly that. Curiosity blazed in the redhead as he snapped, What's your plan? Moments later, with the final stroke, he thrusts the finished drawing into Arnold's hands. A bird erupts from the painting, pulsing with undeniable magic. The redhead flinched, and Okama hissed for silence, warning that any sound would draw unwanted eyes. The young man brandishes a magical brush that can summon anything, and reveals a hidden power he'll wield to carry them across. At this point, Arnold snaps, asking why he's pushing himself for the group. Is it because Heat and Mirror are beast skin too? He flashes a sly wink and declares simply that helping others when they're in need feels completely natural to him. Hyrule bristles with suspicion. The redhead leaned in and demanded he explain exactly how his magic would get them across. Later, the guard barked that to pass the wall they'd have to invoke their border guard authority and capture everyone. Grinning, bristling with questions, as if a mere gar. They're the only one who can pull this off. He strides up to the man, and the guard trembles, choking out a raw fuck. Fear coiled in his chest. He exploded into wild, uncontrollable laughter. An hour later he roared, I've finally found it! He spun back. There it was, the red robe he'd been hunting. He rockets skyward! With this, they'll even the score. This is his magic, the Crimson Spear, materializing in a flash to intercept the bolt. The protagonist flashed aside, evading the strike without breaking a sweat. He grins, says, Is it? Then snaps his glasses back into place. The provocation snapped the one-eyed man's restraint. Fury exploded and he spat. You little brat! He shot forward, his subordinates slamming in behind him as they all bore down on the protagonist. He stalked closer, laughter curling in his throat as he snarled, The boy can't escape anymore! You peeled back his bandage. He jerks his hair aside, bares a burned eye, and snarls that the scorch is his curse. He swears he'll never heal it. He tortures the young man until life drains from him, then snarls at his subordinates, hands off, but do not let the boy escape. Bracing for battle, he snarled he'd kill him, spat boy in his face, and unleashed the red row once again. He then unleashes the blazing mist ability. Anticipating the blow, his subordinates roared for everyone to brace for impact. Fulsa roared that the burning Neville ability would reduce them to ashes. A colossal blast erupts from the ground. All the subordinates are struck too and launched skyward. A manic glint seized his eyes and laughter cracked out as he declared the boy must have savored every lick of those flames of hatred. His gaze snaps to something strange. As the mist dissipates, you spot strange pint-sized monsters clutching kitchen utensils like improvised weapons. Hooded figures crowd close, breath hitching as they hiss. What are those? Monsters? We've never seen anything like them. Then these little monsters launch themselves like bullets, barreling straight at them. To everyone's shock, they erupt with hidden strength and pick off their foes one by one. Folson's eyes widen as he takes it in, then snaps, What's going on? I don't understand. Frustration boiling over, he roared he'd wipe them all out with a single incendiary strike. Another figure burst into view right in front of him. The protagonist clings to a bizarre, otherworldly beast as it barrels forward. Realization slammed into Folson. This was the Red Rose doing. Locking eyes, he snaps that this turned out far more troublesome than he'd expected, and even admits the whole thing actually startled him. Rattling with a stammer, the one-eyed man forces out, Who am I? She dismisses him with a single turn, then coolly asks to be excused. He bolts from the scene without looking back, a blur of impossible speed. He reels, shock pinning him to the spot as his subordinates are pummeled behind him. Dumbstruck, he wonders, can the boy really fly? Sometime later, in a secluded forest, the hero vaults off his enchanted pig as the creature crumbles into a cloud of dust. It reveals itself as a slime he spawned from his own experiments. Not the protagonist, it was that boy, who'd shrugged and declared it reasonable to assume they'd slipped across the border. Sitting on the ground, he admits he wishes he could watch them longer, but pressing matters demand his attention. He knows the lie stung, yet he clings to the hope of seeing them again. The entire group surged across the border. No resistance, not a single hitch. Arnold's worry spikes. He blurts, Is Tenny okay? The protagonist snaps. Tenny said he managed, he's fine. The redhead then tells Harrow that he remembers every word he said, but worry still gnaws at him. Intervene Muir says concern claws at her, even though they had no other choice, and that they only reluctantly let Tenny step in as the decoy because there was no alternative. Sizing up the situation, the protagonist realizes they must feel something. A faint, buzzing bond ties them to the young man. They're bee-skinned, too. Out of nowhere, a creature explodes into view. Star. Arling Arnold's eyes narrow, suspicion flaring. Is this Tenny's creation? In a single heartbeat, the creature, it crash lands and twists, snapping into a slime swarmed the area, terrifying everyone there. The slime lashes into words, spelling out a bold message. Seems you managed. I made it across, I'm fine, and I hope we can meet again. Mirror reads it, then erupts into celebration with Weave, shouting that Tenny's okay. The camera locks onto that strange power, its lens narrowing as suspicion spikes. Suspicion crackled in their gaze. Could this boy actually pull it off with nothing but a brush? He vowed that when they crossed paths again, he'd find out exactly where he stood. Meanwhile, the beast and group plunge into the monster horde, ripping through their ranks. Desperation cracked Folson's voice as he snapped they couldn't waste another second on these creatures. They had to race back to the border. Someone unleashes a crackling thundershock, lightning lancing from their fingertips and scorching the air. He blasted one of the monsters with a savage surge of electricity. He snarls he's heard every whisper about this anti-beastkin group, then tells Folson he's insane to even think about running away. Right then, the four heroes exploded into view. The leader snaps, ordering Akari and Shinobu to freeze the monster in its tracks. And the green biming sprang into action, and powers that snap enemies into rigid paralysis. The boy screamed Chica's name. He roared, "Now it's time to finish off the monsters!" They lunged forward as their blades snapped into perfect alignment. Lock into unison, unleash the light arrow's power, and blind the creatures with a searing blast of radiance. The coordinated strike slammed into the monsters, obliterating them. Tashi explodes with triumph, shouting, "They're down! We subdued them!" The guards gawk, awe igniting in their eyes as they blurt, "They're real heroes!" Folson's eyes flared as he declared, "You must be heroes summoned from another world." Tashi snaps, roaring that he must be the commander of this. The group falls silent as he jabs a finger at the man and declares he knows exactly what the man did, that he's the one causing a disturbance at the border. He's clearly plotting to bolt, leaving those violent monsters unchecked, and as he takes it all in, a flicker of unease crosses his face. Tashi presses on, insisting the kingdom's enchanted signal scream that they were arriving. A blunt warning hit them. Stop that group before they ignite chaos at the border. The kingdom bristles at their recent actions and, with a coldly polite request, asks him to come with them to receive appropriate punishment. Kaoru snarls. They acted for the humankin's good, rage boiling as he demands why they should be punished, and insists the ones who deserve it are the peace-skins and anyone sheltering them. Out of nowhere, someone bursts in, shouting to Folson that he's just been talking to himself. Trembling unseen, dread coiling through him, the man snaps his head and starts scanning. They spun back, eyes blazing, demanding to know why this person was here. A man perches in a striking stylized carriage pulled by a midnight black steed. Right then, the mysterious man materialized. He yanks the door ajar, a hulking, menacing Ma. Dan steps out, a sleek, full-face helmet swallowing every trace of his features. The moment the mysterious figure steps into view, the heroes freeze, tension snapping through the group as wary eyes lock on them. The one-eyed man crashed to his knees in an instant, and the joke, "I demand answers, what is he doing there?" His voice cracked as he stammered, insisting he'd handed the man an appropriate report. His superior confesses he signed off on the report that the man was crushed by a boy and a beastkin, and snarls he never authorized bringing him to the border. Folsom's voice cracked as he begged for an explanation. Silence slams the room and every eye locks on them. After the explanation, the mysterious man realizes Folsom brought his unit to resolve a personal matter and snaps, "Is that true?" Terrified, the one-eyed man stammers a confirmation. Right then, his superior's hand clamped down on his head. Hoisting him with one hand, he snarls that the group's sole mission is to wipe out the Beaskins. Not to shield the man's despicable pride, Folsom collapses into a torrent of apologies, fear and despair racking him. He slams Folsom to the ground as his superior snaps that his duties as commander are revoked. He stepped forward and vowed he'd personally take command of the troops, And then it guarantees you won't waste a single thing. Give any more time to someone trapped inside a shattered mind? The one-eyed man hauled himself upright, body trembling, and barked, "Yes, sir!" The commander snapped his gaze toward the hero. He sneers, telling them to drop their guard. They'll shoulder the blame for their actions, and they're free to return to the kingdom to mete out punishment to that man. Trembling, the hero chokes out, "Who are you?" And the man answers. The kingdom's report landed in his hands, commanding him to hunt down and stop those individuals. Wilson snarled, "There won't be a next time." Watching the internal debate unfold, the heroes locked eyes. Moments later, Tashi snaps, "Who is this guy?" He grills them about the red robe, probes whether he was at the scene, and demands to know if it's true. He swore he popped out of nowhere as the clash between the guards and that anti-beastkin mob exploded. Then they turned and hunted him down. Smiling, he declares their moves wound up helping the guards and insists it was nothing more than a coincidence. Chica snaps that she knew he'd been saving villages and gathering bee skins, but she's stunned he's sneaking into their labs and whipping up trouble on the kingdom's border. The long-haired girl snaps, "Did he come here, or did you cross the border?" The guard shoots back, "He didn't return when the group left. I don't know why he turned up in the first place." Tasia spat that he wanted to see him and find out once and for all if he was truly a hero or a fraud. Chica scoffs, "It's not him." Knowing the protagonist, he's probably locked in a room, shut off from the world like he always is. The whole room explodes into wild, roaring laughter. The short-haired girl slaps the table and snaps the group to attention. "We report every last detail to the king," she demands. Inside the castle's echoing halls, they stagger, chest pounding as the news drops like a bomb. Meanwhile, in some kind of dungeon, the guards huddle and trade low whispers. One snaps that the name rings no bells, while another leans in and asks, "Have you heard about the red robe?" They half wonder if you died, nodding that it could be true, then confess that after everything that went down, they'd become a fan. Locked behind bars, Folsom hears it all and vows to himself, cold fire in his veins, that he'll return and settle the score with the red robe. Meanwhile, in Beeskin territory, Wiltishi's group herded Folsom in custody under guard, and the protagonist, bristling with irritation, snapped at Arnold. "Haven't you noticed how convenient he is?" The man snaps that nobody's even saying how utterly wrong he and Winka look. He barks that they're in Biskin territory now, but neither of them has, no ears or a tail. They pass as completely human, and Hero admits that, given the 10 circumstances, marching into beast skin territory while keeping a human face would be a terrible idea. Arnold's mind scrambles for a plan, and he blurts that they should hide their ears under a hat or something like that. Muir slips off her hat and thrusts it into their hands. "Use it." Arnold's grin explodes. "Perfect size," he shouts. Then he thanks the girl. He slips it on and it snaps into place, hugging his head like it was made for him. The redhead spun around and hurled the words at her. They scoffed. "A beast king with black hair? Impossible." Hero snaps, "It's dead simple. Transform." In a heartbeat, a tail burst from his back and ears snapped into place on his head. It looks exactly like a peacekin, and it spits this sock. Arnold reels, demanding how he could do something like that and why his hair is also silver like mirrors, while the protagonist grins and quips that it's because he's a super protective Lullacon pervert. Annoy, the redhead, glared at me and asked if she was okay with that too, snarling that she hated having the same hair color as that idiot. Her cheeks burned crimson as she stared at the protagonist, utterly mortified. Her cheeks flare crimson and she blurts out that she's not opposed to it. Shock pins him to the spot. He crumples into a tight curl on the field, sobs tearing from his chest. The antenna-haired girl yanks Hero's gaze and blurts she wants to try it too. He leans in and asks if she wants to transform too, insisting it's miles safer than hiding the hat. He shouts, "Transform" again, and in a heartbeat snaps into a new form. A tail flicks behind her, beast ears twitching, and her smile. Her grin bursts across her face the moment he declares she's overjoyed. Okamura shrugs that he only did it for convenience, and Arnold snaps, "Doesn't the effect wear off after a minute or so?" The boy insists the shape-shifting never wears off, and the redhead snaps that it's brutally unfair. Once again, knowing those two like open books, he fires off, "Does it look good?" In an instant, both of them picture her as a cold-blooded assassin. Hera snaps, "I still look like myself." The girl slid the hat back into Muir's hands and breathed a grateful, "Thank you." Mira can't help herself. She asks if she can touch Wei's tail and why he lets her, then plunges her hand into the fur and gasps, "It's so soft and fluffy." Hiro's gaze snaps to Arnold and he growls, "That perverted looks back." The group forges onward, determination burning with every step. The redhead's eyes blaze as she snaps, "This is beast-can territory." Eyes shut. Hiro says the wind here is a different beast than humankin air, and even in the heart of summer, passing through it feels effortless. He inhales, face lighting up, and proclaims the natural scent here is pure bliss. "Charge straight west from here and you'll run smack into a village. These beast skin are so gentle and warm, you'd swear they aren't bears at all." They surged onward, racing through a parade of ever-changing places. Arnold snaps that if anyone ever finds out he's human, he mustn't spring ambushes out of nowhere, and he has to stop torturing himself over that flawless disguise. He raves their honey sweets are heavenly. The protagonist shocks the room by declaring he's eager to go, and Muir's jaw drops. The boy blurts, "You've never been there?" She snaps back, "I haven't." She pours out the explanation, but he silences her with a tight, "You don't have to push yourself." He waves away her past, insisting it holds no interest for him, and that if even a single spark of excitement flares in her, silence says it all. She won't utter a thing. Neuer then shot back, "That's not the case." The redhead snaps that Hiro himself said it, then glares at Muir and demands, "Isn't that fine?" He recognizes her plight, slams the focus back onto Hiro, and admits that if he speaks it'll probably be nothing more than a week so. He snaps, "Don't think about it." And she nods. Agreement clear and instant. The redhead pats her head and vows she'll one day summon the courage to tell him. He snapped the conversation shut and barked that they had to move on now, or they'd be left behind. Not long after, farther along the way, I stumbled across several books. Not ordinary volumes, but grotesque tomes crafted to look like monsters. They hovered in the air, their aura crackling with menace. Spotting it, Arnold barks, "Everyone be careful!" But before he can finish his sentence, one of the books snaps open and winds itself like a coiled blade, ready to strike. He unleashes a jagged spear of lightning straight at them, and they all dive out of its path. The redhead smirks, saying they feint a frontal charge only to yank back before the blow ever lands. Teeming with unexpected traits, don't judge a book by its cover. The hero jabs a thumb at the man ahead and asks the old man to handle him. The old man nods and roars, "The great Arnold will teach him what true swordsmanship is." Amid flying blows, Y snaps, "She'll take the one on the right." Hira studies the fight and spits out the verdict. The old man's opponent's attribute is thunder. Just then, another flying book ripped free from the debris and shot into the air. A colossal hand barrels toward him, and in that heartbeat he locks onto the book and realizes its attribute is earth. It ignites his magic the instant someone speaks the keyword origin, and hurls it, rocketing straight for the giant hand. Right then the hand detonates. Bursting from the smoke, the protagonist locks onto another book streaking through the air. This time he scrawls "extend," and his sword rockets forward to reach it. He coils to strike and bellows that it can't withstand his piercing attack. He unleashes a full-force blow that pierces clean through the hardcover book. Once it lay vanquished, he blurts, "There's still one left!" The Thunderbook lunges at Arnold. He barely evades, a hair's breadth from getting struck. He lunges, his blade carving a fatal arc that cleaves the book cleanly in two. Laughing heartily, Arnold erupted into a wild celebration, roaring, "Did everyone see that? This is my true power!" He snapped his gaze to the side and realized the path here was also complete. No trace of magic remained. It had been finished in the blink of an eye. Meanwhile, the table caresses the wolf pup, its surface tracing soft, calming patterns across the pup's fur. After all that chaos, the redhead barks that reaching Dogen will still take time, so he insists they stop and rest right here. As they prepare to sleep, Herba leans in, locks eyes with the old man, and murmurs, "If any monsters appear, I'm counting on you." He slumps against the tree trunk, eyes sliding shut as sleep drags him under. With his hand on his waist, the old man scoffs that this guy's a real nuisance. Muir laughs, saying he's probably exhausted, and explains he fought the monsters and burned through a mountain of magic. Sitting against the tree, the old man proclaims the song is about him. He sneers that the hero's still a child yet is baffled by where that raw strength comes from, fumes at his outrageous arrogance, and zeroes in on his singular, uncanny magic. He scoffs, saying it is inevitable. A beast that travels with humans will stake its claim on this territory under these conditions. He warns it's suicidal for a normal person. It's the first time he's ever seen anyone like this. Harrow didn't even flinch when he found out they were beastkins, completely unfazed. Stone-faced, he says most people would have cowered or outright mocked them. Muir nods sharply, and the man presses, "Are you still afraid of human cans?" She snaps, "I am." She flashes a grin and declares Hyrule's no obstacle. The redhead snaps, "He's strange on every level. He might not even be human." Grimacing, he quipped that Hyrule might be a reincarnated demon or a perverse spirit. Laughter shakes her until tears fall. Muir spins to her uncle and asks, "What's that? That's strange." Patting Muir's head, the man beams and admits, "Seeing you smile like that makes me happy too." A voice declares she was entrusted to him. He must protect her. He roared his yes. He'd charge in even if it cost him his life. Determined, the little girl snaps no and vows to forge her own strength, pushing herself to grow even stronger. Perched on a tree trunk, the protagonist feigned dozing off. He scans the dial from rim to rim, utterly silent as he takes in every detail. I launched the blog, and hours later the sun plunged beneath the horizon. The man barks at the brute to sprint. Beastken Village is right up ahead. Catching sight of the sprawling garden, the child gasps and exclaims, "It's beautiful!" Arnold sweeps his arm and declares this the Doven Garden, a field of flowers fashioned from beeskins, while Hera presses on, dazzled but insistent that reaching the village comes first because darkness is already falling. Looking back, you said he's dying to taste the honey candy they make and keeps pressing everyone to move now, and Arnold, boiling, explodes into a shout. They thundered they'd been waiting for the protagonist until this very moment. Sometime later, the scene drops into Dogen, the Beeskin village. A bear man toils and bellows, "Fucking!" He implored Susu to hurry. A shadowy figure materialized right behind them, closing the distance in a heartbeat, and plants a booming, shoulder-rattling pat squarely on the man's back. Inui whips around and locks eyes with Arnold, who grins and says, "It's been a long time." The redhead snorts. "He hasn't lost a pound, still carrying every last one." Max's gaze locked on the man. His ears were gone, and the redhead abruptly shifted gears, declaring he'd introduce everyone. He grins and announces, "This is Max, the Birkin who was my drinking buddy years ago." And the man steps forward with a warm nod. "Pleasure to meet you." Introducing his group, Arnold shouts that this angel-faced little girl is the stunning Flower Mirror, the mysterious athlete, and the unstoppable, ferociously strong girl Y. He jabbed a finger to the side and barked, "This brat here is Hyrule." Max then bellows, "He's glad they came." And from inside a little girl pushes the door open, voice trembling as she apologizes for the delay, then turns to her father and asks, "Who are they?" The moment he sees her, Arnold's breath freezes. Shock crashes over him. When asked if he has a daughter, Max grins and replies that the last time they met, she wasn't even born. Then crouches to Susu and proudly announces, "These are Papa's friends." She steps forward, voice small but unwavering. "I'm Suzu," she says, 7 years old, thanking them for taking care of her father. Arnold bowed, placed them in her care, and announced himself as Arnold Ocean. The girl replied, "It's a pleasure to meet you." Max drops the bomb. They're actually expecting their third child is due any day and they've run out of honey. The redhead gasps, "You're preparing now?" And the man snaps, "Yes. We're racing to the honey gorge to fetch more." Grinning, his daughter declares that if he needs his strength back, nothing beats the honey here. She'll grab a whole bunch for Mom. Tears carving lines down his cheeks, Arnold chokes out that he has a wonderful daughter. And Max laughs, teasing that she takes after her mother. He fires off a quick apology for having to bolt the moment they arrive, and asks if they're headed somewhere else. Arnold shoots back that honey is actually one of their goals. Max shot a hurried goodbye, ordering them to stay put. He swore he'd be back tomorrow. Arnold's jaw tightened as he warned them to be careful. Later, Arnold reels when he discovers Max has married a stunning woman. She smirks and teases that if he keeps piling on praise like that, he'll be swept away. Seeing her pregnant, Muir's curiosity exploded. He blurted, "Can I touch your belly?" And she smiled and said yes. Watching it unfold, Arnold declares that mothers are nothing short of miracles. Meet the protagonist, the person everything hinges on. He pins everyone with a silent, unblinking stare, catching every move. He snaps his eyes shut and declares he's stepping outside to get some air. A grim, thoughtful mask on his face, he steps out and scans the street. He missed his 2 children, scampering in one of them. They slam flat onto the ground. A scream rips from the child, and the shout crumbles into sobs as tears spill down their face. Their knee jerked, and their mother lunged forward to console them. She scooped the child into her arms and barked, "Stop crying!" My gaze locked on the scene. Memories of his mother crash into the hero, stealing his breath. His thoughts tore him apart as he wonders if, back then, he wielded the very magic he now commands. Maybe the whole thing could have gone in a different direction. As the memory of that tragic accident detonates in his mind, he jolts back into the present. Right now, the protagonist's dark past lurks in the shadows. No one has a clue. Doubt claws at him as he questions his actions, haunted by a moment that happened long ago. The next day, she cornered the hero and unleashed a fiery spiel about books. She leans in and reveals they've got rare ones, left in this village some time ago by a wandering seer. And the camera clicks, thanking the woman for the information. He snatches up a book titled The Adventures of Tinkoweekle. Mac unleashed Blue Note, a heroic tale that slammed onto the scene and earned roaring acclaim. Determined to read, he snatches a chair and drops into it. He nods, promising he'll check it out, while the plot screams cliché. When the world seethed with wars, sorrow, and agony, a young man stood tall with like-minded companions as the master who became the hero crushing every battlefield. But fame birthed envy, and his own king falsely accused him of slaying the princess and executed him. After his death, the world plunged back into chaos, and with only his soul, the hero hunted away to resurrect himself to fulfill his duty of bringing peace to the world. On a desperate quest to resurrect himself, he seized a strange magic that could bend the world to his will, but losing his body robbed him of the power to use it. So he waited for someone. When that day comes, he'll unleash that magic to remake peace. First, raising every nation for their sins, then stepping into a beautiful new world while clutching his lone spark of hope. His name was Tinky Wiggle. After reading it, the boy scoffed, wondered who'd ever want to be a hero, and snapped he'd refuse on the spot. Out of nowhere, the background erupted. Mira yells for hero. He snaps that he's swamped right now, and desperation cracking his voice blurts. She alerts him to a colossal problem and, voice steady but urgent, politely asks him to come at once. He snaps that it's about Max and the others. Only Susu made it back. Soon, the whole village poured into the square, every eye locked on the center. Hyrule stormed up to Arnold and demanded whether the Bearman and the others had been attacked by monsters. The redhead cut in. Yes, but it seems only one struck. His daughter cut through the chatter, declaring exactly what her father had meant. Proclaimed that this beast was a one-of-a-kind monster. A flash hits Kimmer. He remembers the painter saying something like that. Right then, he spun to the old man and demanded answers about Citrapa, a monster like no other. The redhead snapped that you should think of them as monsters above rank S. Unique monsters pack a deadly special ability or a nasty, unpredictable flaw. And usually, top-ranked adventurers charge in to subdue them. Arnold and the others surged forward, calling out for Susie. He leaned in. Was the monster spider-shaped with a completely red body? She swallowed, nodded, and breathed. Yes. At that moment, the old man snaps. It's the red spider, I'm sure. The elder's words struck like lightning. Dread exploded across every face. The old man leans in and declares that unique monsters spring up in the oddest spots. He was sure they'd erupt in Honey Gorge, right inside the beehives. Kimmery cuts in, voice slicing the air. Is saving these people the only thing we have to do? A hush slammed into the room. Every voice died, everyone frozen in silence. Arnold swallows and admits he's never squared off with this monster, so he can't possibly understand. He warned they're deadly. Usually only an A-rank team of adventurers or higher could take one down. His eyes cut across the field. Every beastkin in sight capped at rank B. All the stronger ones sprinted off to collect honey, leaving only women, children, and the elderly here. The redhead spits out that he's still stuck at C rank, level 37. He can't possibly beat it. He snaps at the old man, insisting he's not like this. Normally, he'd be the first to hurl himself into the fray to save. He spins toward them, eyes blazing, and snaps, "Why am I not doing it right now?" Teeth clenched, the redhead snaps. He may want to save them, but that unique monster is untouchable. He snaps that leaving would change nothing, so he vows he can't die yet. Every word hit her. Max's wife explodes out of the house, shouting, "What's going on?" She gasps when she spots her daughter and blurts, "You're back?" Susie bolts toward her mother. Sobbing, he poured his heart out about her. Father. The woman pins Arnold with a fierce stare and demands, "Do you already know what happened to my husband?" He replies that a red spider suddenly burst out and boxed them in, and Max hurled himself between it and his daughter so she could sprint to safety. She suddenly goes limp, eyes fluttering shut. Arnold lunges, snatching her up mid-fall and keeping her from crashing to the floor. The mother forces a grin and snaps to Susu that she's fine. She only lost her footing. She bolts upright, hurls a quick apology at Arnold, then fires off urgent questions about her husband. Someone cuts in, declaring they still don't know, and the girl snaps that red spiders take time to eat. They shovel food down like fuel, desperate to make it there on time. She snaps that the only way out is to slay the monster. Fail and the others' lives will be snuffed out. Arnold snaps that he's not okay with this, but he can't imagine their group pulling off a win. He reveals he once clashed with a monster like no other. He clawed his way out by sheer luck while most of the people with him didn't make it. He says that memory pins him now, even though he's stronger than he was back then. He still can't hurl his life into the void. Muir rushes to her uncle, drops to her knees and begs forgiveness, choking out, "It's all my fault." Dropping to one knee, he snapped that it wasn't like that and owned up. It was his stubbornness alone. He vows to take her under his wing and sculpt her into a proper lady. That's how he'll honor the promise he swore to her father. At those words, tears spring to the child's eyes. She yells Arnold's name, demanding he protect his friends and not let them die. Cradling her wolf as she says her friend is so sad it tears at her, and vows to do everything she can to repay the favor from before. She feels the monster's brutal power in her bones, knows she can't face it alone. But now she has herself, and the whole of Hyrule, standing with her. She locks onto the boy's expression and snaps, "It won't work!" She shot to her feet and roared, "Hero has no connection to this!" She isn't shutting him out. She wants his help, and without warning, the protagonist blurts that he's indeed connected to. He burst in declaring he'd come for honey. Then, beaten, admits he has no choice but to return empty-handed. "If the bear doesn't come back, they'll run out of honey," Arnold confirmed, his voice tight with dread. Adjusting his glasses, Okamura snarls that if a one-of-a-kind monster stands between them and their honey, he'll exterminate it. Moments later, the whole squad braced, ready to surge to their feet. Friends press in while Max's wife grabs his sleeve, her voice trembling as she pleads, "Will they be okay?" Grinning, Arnold vows they'll rescue Max and the others. He grips her hand and insists she rest, vowing he won't let this child grow up without a father. The village women poured out their thanks and begged them to rescue their husbands as well. The mother drops to her knees in front of Susu, locking eyes as she warns, "Even if you're only guiding them, you must be careful." Arnold seizes Mira's hand and vows they'll escape the village together as she watches her comrades charge into battle. Mira pleads for their safe return. Sometime later at Honey Gorge, Arnold scoffs that it's just the head rounding the bend. Winka agrees, her skin prickling at a presence, and the protagonist steps forward, promising to scout it while ordering everyone to stay put. She asks if he's certain. He etches the word conceal and assures her not to worry. After the magic flares, the boy looks up and spots a bear. He scans the village beasts trapped in a monstrous web of sand, blood pounding as he sees they're still alive, and plots how to slice the web and free them. His gaze snaps to a lethal threat. A gigantic spider loomed inches behind him. "Move, quick!" The hero dives behind a jagged rock, pulse hammering. A chilling, bloodless aura washing over him as he wonders if this could be a monster unlike any he's ever seen. The giant spider loomed, and it was the very red spider they'd mentioned. His gaze locks on his hand as a savage realization rips through him. If he hadn't written "conceal," he'd already be dead. One strike obliterates his rock, turning it to dust. Still crumpled on the ground, panic claws at him as he realizes it. He locks onto his exact location. Desperation ripped through him as the boy tore off, sprinting for his life. He whips his head around and sees the spider unleash a barrage of silk straight at him. He unleashed his abilities and sprang into action. Unleashes Stage 1. Storm. We asked Hyrule if he's okay while she froze, flooded by an intense, murderous intent. Arnold bellows that Susu and Muir are tucked away somewhere safe, then declares he'll bait the giant spider himself. Meanwhile, the others storm in and free Max and the rest. We surge forward as the protagonist fires off. "Can I fight?" Shaking with raw fear, Okamura choked out, "It's dangerous. I've never seen a monster like this." Arnold's jaw dropped and he snapped, "You're not yourself. What's wrong with you?" All eyes pinned to him. Meanwhile, Weiss steeled herself, storms straight at the giant spider, meeting it head-on. Wielding her weapons, she snarls that her spear is stronger. Watching the battle, Arnold growls, "Just like I suspected, she's—" Strength surged through her. She's stunned she can still wield that spear. Sizing up the battle, the protagonist sees the girl falter. Fear clamps down on her and insecurity shadows every move. Strength still thrummed in him, but he stared at his trembling hand and ground out, "If I were strong, everything would be different." The memory hits him. He told Muir her worry was crippling her. She had to grow stronger. He seized his resolve. The boy curls his fingers into tight, white-knuckled fists. We traded frantic ideas about saving the Max and the others. The man shoots a worried, "You okay?" And the boy fires back a steady, "Yeah." Sure, they'll run into even stranger monsters as they push forward. He bellows that only one thing matters. He won't stop until he sinks his teeth into that honey. A grin erupts on Arnold's face as he whips his head back and realizes he's finally back to normal. He bellows to Hiro, "These webs are thick and dense. Perfect handholds. Climb up." Scrambling up the cliff, he bellows, "Max!" A voice barked, "Hold on!" And the protagonist's eyes slammed to something screaming at the old man to jump down right now. The giant spider lashes out, ensnaring the man in a blinding tangle of web. Sensors locked onto him. Arnold slammed into the super-strong web and became hopelessly ensnared. Frustration flares. He snatches his sword and roars, "This isn't happening!" Vision blurring, he rasped, "Hiro, why? Run now!" And collapsed into darkness. From below, the protagonist bellows, hurling their voice at the old man. Arnold's words hit him like a punch to the gut. These one-of-a-kind monsters unleash insane powers and hide ticking flaws that can tear everything apart. He gapes at the monstrous spider, chill crawling up his spine, and can't shake the thought. Does its web really make people fall asleep? I slammed them down onto the jagged rocks. He bellows to the antenna-haired girl, declaring he's certain they can only save everyone after defeating the... They whip toward the spider and demand to know if the web hides a special move they can unleash. Resolved, Huey shouts she's gathered the flames to full power, and that with that force they might pull this off. It's a massive technique, and will take time to charge, so Hiro bellows he'll destroy the spider while Huey charges her ability. She vaulted onto the mountain and yelled, "Hiro, be careful!" He brandished his sword, snaring the red spider's gaze as he bellowed, "I am your opponent!" At Max's house, Susie's mom's hand slipped and whatever she was holding slammed into the floor, shattering into pieces. Mirror snaps. What happened to the woman? Who snaps back that she's fine and just needs to lie down. Her younger child suddenly erupts into a piercing wail. Panic ripped through Mirror Pixie. She sizes up the scene, spots Susu unraveling, and snaps that Susu has always trusted her uncle. She tore at her sleeves, voice raw with anguish, desperate to find any way she could help right now. She scrambles for a thought, and suddenly her hair bursts into a radiant glow. Curiosity igniting, she leans forward and asks to Mirror what's unfolding. She snatched the baby from the other woman's arms and froze as the child's cries died mid-breath. Stammering Mirror stammers that she has no clue, then vows she'll bring someone here. After a tense wait, a voice exploded through the room, announcing the baby would arrive any second. Mirror's voice cracks as she asks what's next. The elder's resolve flares. "We'll handle it. Don't worry." In that split second, the determination flashed in her eyes as she set her jaw and vowed to do what must be done. She sprinted alone, swearing to herself she'd make it to Honey Gorge to warn the others and drag Max and Susu back. It's the only thing she can do right now. Back at the fight, the giant spider lunges again, trading brutal strikes with our hero as their deadly duel rages on. He roars the explosion chant and unleashes a cataclysmic blast that obliterates his opponent once and for all. But the spider, lightning fast, darts aside and slips away in an instant. In an instant, the spider struck back, her colossal legs slamming into the hero. The blow catapults the hero through the air, slamming him into a hillside. The protagonist slammed into the wall, crumpled to the floor, and lay there gravely wounded. A grin snaps across his face as he looks up. The intended girl surged, channeling raw energy into a blistering power charge. Steeled, she proclaimed, "This is the 5th stage, the gathering of flames." She channels every shred of power and hurls her ultimate attack straight at the towering giant. The spider scrambles to dodge, but crashes into a clinging, gluey trap and gets hopelessly stuck. The hero etched adhesive. The boy grinned and declared she only had to stay trapped for one more second. Her explosion slams into the giant spider dead on, detonating everything around her. The hero springs to their feet, a triumphant grin splitting their face. It's clear they pulled it off. Once the smoke finally cleared, the dust clears, and 8 eyes lock onto him. The gaping crater at his feet proves the girl missed her shot. His eyes snap to the spider's legs. She'd shoved the old man between them like a living shield, a ruthless proof of her cunning. Every last inch, and they snatched this girl herself. Y screams that she was seized in a helpless heartbeat, mourning that her attempt to gather the flames collapsed. She squeezed her eyes shut. An apology to Hero cut through the air, leaving the hero frozen in raw shock. The words slam into the boy's mind, detonating raw memories of his traumatic past. Rage boiling, he hurtles at the spider, ready to finish her off for good. Elsewhere, Susie presses herself into the shadows, every breath a whisper as she hides. They breathed into the hush. It's quiet now. She pinned the wolf with a steady stare and choked out, "Is it all over?" Muir explodes into view, seizing Suze's gaze. The girl pleaded with her not to scare her, and the child stammered out an apology. Suzu reels, baffled, demanding, "What are you doing here?" Mira answers, urgent and steady, "The baby's about to be born." Within bursts into the room, eyes fierce, and snaps that she came here to deliver the message. From the back, Susie snaps, "It was deafening earlier, now it might be eerily quiet." Muir snaps, "I'll find out what's going on." Susu storms forward and declares she's coming along. In that instant, they both peered, and their hearts dropped as everyone lay ensnared in the giant spider's web. Entangled in the web, our hero lies unconscious, drifting and wondering where he is as memories of the brutal fight with the red spider and his crushing defeat strike him, leaving one terrifying question. Is he dead, or is the web warping his mind? He surrenders to the end, and though he'd sworn he had no regrets, a brutal truth hits. He was Maeve. Just then a voice slices the air calling his name, and he looks for it, only to hear the caller apologize to Hero. Recognition slammed into him. He knew that voice and could finish every word. A dying woman wailing at death's threshold, probably his mother, pleading with him to live an honest life. The instant those words cut through the air, Hyrule snaps awake. He rips free from the sticky web, crashes to the ground, and lands squarely in front of the giant spider. Harrow strode toward the monster with a steel-hard glare as a golden light swallowed him. Eyes locked on the fight, Susu gasps, asking if that's Hero, and Arnold admits it's the first time he's seen him like this. And she murmurs that something about his presence makes her feel safe. Mid-fight, the spider lashes out, unleashing a sticky web that rockets straight at him. He slipped past the attack and detonated his fire ability into a searing counterblast. He slams his skill outward, vaporizing the spider's web into dust. The spider and the protagonist locked eyes, each sizing the other up. Seething with irritation, the spider hurled itself straight at him. It pivots and bares its back to the hero. He steels himself, drawing in power to unleash a mysterious special attack. The kids go wild, shouting that it's the coolest thing they've ever seen. Cool, I'm diving in and tearing this mess apart. In the heat of the moment, a camera zeroes in on something. He clutches his head, breath ragged, asking how he even tore himself free from the spider's web. His jaw clenched as he stared at the red spider. Who did this? Confusion slammed into him. Was his strength secretly swelling? He channels his magic and roars that he'll pull this off and obliterate it. The spider lashes out, hurling crackling energy orbs straight at them. The boy blurred into a living bolt of agility, twisting and weaving as he dodged every energy sphere fired at him. He rocketed skyward and snarled at the spider. "You were nothing but trouble!" Everyone knows a low-level adventurer would be crushed by it. Bracing for the finishing blow, he roared he'd obliterate its common sense this instant. He scrawls "burn" and "explode," and the area erupts into a colossal explosion. The blast rips a massive chunk out of the mountain's flank. The impact hits like a bomb, catapulting the protagonist through the air and slamming them far away. He throws up a desperate guard and protects himself. The mist shreds apart, scattering into the air. He holds his breath, eyes locked on the target, desperate to see if his strike was thrown off. From where you stand, the monster has been utterly obliterated. Beholding the landscape ripped apart by his devastating strike, the hero starts He froze, then flung his hands up to the sky. He explodes into a triumphant roar, slamming his fists skyward and shouting, "We've won!" Later, back in the quiet village, silence pressed down like a held breath. Arnold stands beside Max, slapping his back and whooping as he congratulates him on his new baby. Shushug's daughter bursts out, "It's a boy!" Emotion crashes over him as the redhead confesses he longs to have a child someday. The baby suddenly storms into the conversation between Arnold and the protagonist, snapping at them to keep their voices down. The mother beams, "Thank you so much," and Max blurts that he doesn't even know how to thank them. Raking a hand through his fiery hair, the redhead grins. "Don't worry, I didn't really do much." And the camera snaps. "He got caught pretty quickly, actually." Smiling, Arnold proclaims the hero pulled off the rescue again. Hire scoffs, insisting it was nothing but luck. The warrior's mind snapped sharp. She declared she and Hero had slain the monster together. She snaps, "No, Hero did it all by himself." And Arnold's jaw drops as he stammers, "Are you serious? He defeated it without her?" Muir cuts in, voice sharp. "It's true. She and Susu saw him take down the monster." Startled, Max blurts that he single-handedly crushed the monster, then snaps, "What are you, boy?" Okamura averts his face and snaps he isn't obliged to answer. Arnold waves Max off with a grin. He's like that with everyone. Max thanks the boy, who just shrugs and says it was nothing. He dove into danger for a single taste of honey. The Kai man gapes, stunned that he risked his life for that. At that moment, he bellowed, they had to get ready. The village was holding a festival to celebrate the baby's birth, and everyone would be serving the finest honey desserts. Moomer's grin spreads wide as he blurts, "He's unbearably cute." The mother seizes Mira's hands, tears in her eyes, thanking her and declaring Mira is the reason he was born healthy. Smiling mirror pro. The baby is the one crafting him into being. Later that night, still in the village, women in ornate festival dress erupted into a thundering traditional dance, skirts whipping as they spun through the celebration. Meanwhile, the adventurers gorge on a banquet, the table groaning under a mountain of food. Arnold bellows the lineup from right to left: sour honey, honey stew, triple-layer honey pie, and hot honey sauce. He launches into a passionate breakdown of how they make the honey, and the boy tunes him out, diving headfirst to taste the food. I savor the flavor with a grin, and he swears risking his life for this was utterly worth it. Bursting into laughter, Max leans in and fires, "Is it any good?" The boy snaps, "You?" Curiosity flares and he blurts out, asking if the black, red, and white honeys are some kind of special honey. That familiar scent slams into them. Max flashes a grin and explains this honey comes from the flowers of the Dobin garden. Scents and flavors swirled around, and that familiar smell he flagged? It's most likely the white honey. He also declares the honey candy is crafted from white honey. In that instant, Muir's memory snaps. Attention zeroes in right here. She yanked his sleeve and shouted, "Look! Susu's stealing the show with her dance at the traditional festival!" Smiling, Max grinned and boasted she'd inherited her mother's gift for dancing. And he thundered that his wife had always reigned as the village's unbeatable dancer. Cheeks burning, he blurts out that she's amazing. Meanwhile, Mira leans in and blurts to Hero that she wanted to ask him something. She snaps, "Can you summon that golden flame right now?" The boy stares, baffled, and she wonders if he doesn't remember or if she's the one who's wrong. Voice trembling, she insists the light wasn't its usual blue. Susu burst into view in front of the table and snapped at the protagonist. "What do you think?" Dumbfounded, he bursts out, "What are you talking about?" She proclaims it's about her dance, then demands to know, "Was it any good?" He beams and praises her. "You've got incredible moves for your age." At that, Susu exploded into a jubilant roar, throwing her arms up and whooping. Telling her father, "You blurted out that you're a He kept shoveling food in, his eyes glued to her. Heroblances snapped. He spins and locks eyes with Mir. Her stare pins him, so he snaps, "What's wrong?" Heat floods her face and she blurts, "It's nothing." Sometime later, the group cinched their gear into place, poised to press onward in their journey. Arnold clasps Max's hand, thanking him for the animals, and Max's friend smirks, saying it was the least he could do. The bear man rumbled, "They should come back someday," and the redhead shot back, "Absolutely," then burst into laughter. Muir snaps, "Ready?" Her uncle answers yes, and whips a glass jar from his bag. He pipes up that he pulled this off. Susu calls Hero, demanding he lean in and lend her his ear. She beamed, then planted a grateful kiss on the boy's cheek. They gasped, eyes locked on the shocking sight. A wave of shock slammed into everyone there. Faces went pale and jaws dropped. The protagonist snaps, "What's that?" It stood there and she declared it his reward. They dubbed him Golden Hyro. As she walks away, Max roars at the protagonist, "You'll never take my daughter!" At once the group surged onward, their journey roaring back to life, and watch shock slam into Arnold S. Harrow. Find out why he always snatches the best moments. Ben, the boy with glasses, snaps, "So you're saying you wanted a little girl to kiss you?" and slams the label lolicon on him. Arnold snapped his gaze to the side. Turn to the antenna girl, lock eyes, and demand, "Does she have anything to say?" Hyra steps close, pulse racing, and whispers, "Can I kiss you?" The redhead and his daughter reeled in disbelief, rage tearing from their throats. The protagonist grins and tells Wei to go ahead. "Kiss the old man if you want." And the old man breaks down, sobbing tears of joy. Annoyed, Arnold snaps. He'll repeat it until it sinks in. "It's completely normal. I loved those dancers last night." Harrow snubs him coldly, treating him like he doesn't exist. Just then a child barreled in, crying out for her uncle. The man snaps, explaining she misunderstood. Reeling from the spider fight, the protagonist realizes Marcello had nothing, yet he stood wrapped in a strange, warm halo. He suddenly blurted out 2 words at once and froze, baffled. How did he manage that when he'd only ever been able to speak 1 word at a time? After crushing the giant spider, his level skyrocketed, but no new abilities awakened. He tried to write 2 words at once again, and it failed, leaving him to wonder if it was all just luck. As he plunged into unconsciousness, only the 2 girls kept vigil. He remembers them both whispering about the golden flame. He locks eyes on Muir, mind racing. What did they see? The leads are left baffled. Right then he dials the short girl, voice clipped as he says, "I just want to talk to you about something." He snapped the question. Had she mentioned seeing a golden flame? She shot back a firm yes. The protagonist then demands she spill every brutal detail of what she saw during the battle with that one-of-a-kind monster. After her explanation, realization slammed into him. Golden flames roared around him. The child snapped, "You don't know anything about this?" And the boy confessed, "I don't." Relief crashes through him, and he thanks her for the explanation, gratitude blazing in his voice. Red-faced, Muir stammers that the protagonist looked like a total legend in that moment. Seeing this, they fall utterly silent. His forehead creases as he says she's brazen. Muir watches them with icy calm, while irritation boils up inside Arnold at the scene. Staring at the golden flame, the boy senses it isn't just fire, but probably a whole other kind of magic, nothing like his own abilities. Right now, huge swaths of his own magic are still uncharted territory to him. Doubt claws at him. Has corruption already sunk its teeth into him? And does this magic conceal darker secrets than he ever realized? He locked eyes with Muir and swore that one day he'd unravel every mystery and probably find out what she saw. Looking up, he concedes this world is It was vast, teeming with people and shrouded in mysteries, and he swore he'd fight with everything he had to survive. He swore he wouldn't die in this world with regrets. Then one day the quiet shattered. He'll crack all those mysteries at once, ripping the truth into the open in one heart-stopping blow. The redhead snaps him out of his reverie. He snapped that once he was done talking to her, he should bring her back to me. She can't tear her eyes from the hero, swearing she'll one day bellow just like Harrow did earlier. He fought with desperate fury, every strike born of fear, searing pain, raw anguish, and crushing sadness. That's why he exploded into that shout, convinced she's too weak to belt out Hero's roar right now. She vows to stand shoulder to shoulder with Hero, her uncle, and Waishan in the fight. And if she can plunge into the fray and roar at their side. Her gaze is glued to the board, locked and unblinking. Elation surged. Animal scoffs, pointing out Muir's fingers digging into his clothes like a vice, cheeks burning and heart pounding. A startled Muir insists she has nerves of steel and vows to forge her body and mind into true strength. She dares to hope that by forging a sharper mind, she'll finally draw close to Harrow. Her phone explodes with calls from her uncle. He keeps asking where they're heading now. He snaps, "We're heading to the Beastken Kingdom. Passion!" Grinning, the boy blurts out he's been dying to go there. The redhead snaps, "Why?" She wants to come along too. She fires back a firm, "Yes." Crackling with excitement, he proclaims they're charging straight into Passion. A storm of emotions churned in their chests as they surged toward the Beastken Kingdom. At that exact moment, the Even King perches on her room's balcony. Demon country is ablaze. Chaos tears through the Demon King's castle. She remembers the king of the human cans snubbing her letter and the king of the bee-skins instantly spitting out a rejection, leaving her to wonder why no one understood. Right then, her sub, the warden, storms into the hall. The Demon King snaps, "Did something happen?" And the warden shrugs, "Nothing has." The subordinate leaned in and told Her Majesty she looked strained, then sprang to boil the kettle and brew a soothing pot of tea. The Demon King offered a curt thanks, then smirked and pointed out that she wishes she knew why everyone can read her like an open book. Her subordinate locks eyes with Her Majesty and confirms she told her the woman fought with fierce courage, while the others tremble with doubt. The Demon King's gaze snaps to it, attention yanked like iron to a flame. She snaps at Kyrie, "Give me my paper!" Her subordinate falls into line. The Demon King leaned forward, eyes aglow. Tectel's magic is always fascinating. And her subordinate nodded. It's to be expected from a unique magic user. The noble confessed, voice like ice. The Demon King and I are cut from the same dark cloth. Kyria snaps, "What's in the letter?" The Demon King laughs, painting a vivid picture of the sheer joy he's found roaming the world, running daring experiments and making new friends. His voice bright with cheer. She leans in and spills that he just joined a wildly intriguing team. He zeroes in and declares the teen is a lone humankin, 2 beaskins, and a half-breed. They tore forward at blinding speed, turning the crew into a truly strange spectacle as they breathed noble remarks that humankin still sit like passive spectators. He slipped into the beast's territory, hunting whispers and snatching every scrap of intel. Kurita snapped that soon they'd unmask what the beastkins are scheming with this movement, and they'd have to verify if it's true. Perched on the balcony with steam curling from his cup, the noble sips and nods, agreement sharp as a blade. Meanwhile, "Thank you" rang out in the territory at the Bugstorm Mine's band of heroes squares off against a colossal dragon, steel in their hands and fire in their hearts. Taishi bellows, "We've trapped the Bugstorm dragon!" Shik snaps, "We need to hurry now!" They seized their hard-earned rewards and charged back to the castle. His companion pants that she's tired. Knight grins, hails her effort, and quips that a whole dragon wouldn't squeeze into their carriage. Tashi Morn's attention snapped to something, and a twitch raced across his cheek, to dart out of the way. A colossal bird rockets out of the sky and lands right beside us, the one who gapes, pulse racing, desperate to know what's happening. The bird screeched, "I'm taking this!" One of the heroes snapped, "Who are you?" and jabbed a finger at the fallen beast. "We just brought that dragon down!" Ignoring them, a hawk-like creature rockets forward and tears the drive-in scales clean off. When they saw it, everyone's jaw hit the floor. The birdman rockets forward and snatches the dragon's tail. Sheikah's eyes snap wide. Could he really be hauling the entire drive? Clutching the colossal dragon with nothing but... With a single outstretched hand, the man launches into the sky, ripping himself free from the earth. Seeing this, the leader coils to unleash his magic, then the knight freezes mid-breath. To him, he snaps no and explains they've already gotten what they came for. He should leave, yet he lingers, jaw dropping at how breathtaking the bird lugged the entire driving like it weighed nothing. And with arms crossed, she smirked that in the end it would have been 5 against 1. Matt snarls that even 5 people couldn't stand against that bird. It's one of the 3 warriors who served directly under the Beastskin King. They're gutter ranked. If they pick a fight with him, the Beastkins will descend and tear them apart, so they bite their tongues. Then the man spits. "Why would a high-ranking warrior like you steal our dragon?" The knight growled. "They're probably gearing up for the coming war." Startling everyone in the group, Tashi rips through the silence and demands, "Why are you pretending I don't exist now that the preparations for war have already begun?" One of the girls snaps, "You still haven't explained why that bird snatched our monster." The knight snaps that they must turn their backs on him, because the war against the Demunkins demands it. He points at the monster and reveals they've found a way to puppeteer dead monsters. Stammering, Shika blurts, "Can we create zombie monsters?" The knight nods grimly. It's a temporary ritual that feeds on freshly killed bodies. If they're hauling in dead monsters, they're arming to march on the Demunkins. One of the heroines snaps, "Are the humankins considered outsiders?" The mag snaps that they are, warning any hostile move will unleash attacks from both the Beastkins and the Demunkins. He warns that the heroes are still honing their powers, so they must avoid any peril that could snuff them out. Relief crashes over the group. They break into smiles and nod as one, convinced he's right. As he storms off, the Mike thinks to himself that the world teeters on the brink. Any moment now it will plunge into roaring chaos. Meanwhile, in the Beastskin Kingdom, a colossal royal tree pierces the sky, ruling over the land. A child bolts toward her father, crying out to him. He snarled, asking if she'll call him father or kneel and call him Lord Father. This is a king-level beast, capable of ruling. Cochlear Cane, the Beastcan princess, scoffs. Sure, her father will shrug it off and forget about it. She snarls that he listened to her and demands to know why she can't go into battle with him. He snaps. She's too young. She hasn't even mastered the bonding technique. He thunders that the war will be savage, death scattered across every battlefield. He grabs his daughter's hands and swears he has no intention of. Fear of losing her clawed at his heart, but duty to preserve the royal bloodline steeled his resolve. She explodes, accusing him of taking only her brothers for that reason, and vows she won't accept his decision. She smirks and declares the mimers can handle it without her. Her father snaps, scoffing that Mimer is nothing but a 9-year-old girl. He spots pretenders masquerading as royal blood and admits rooting them out is the hardest fight he's facing right now. The girl fires back that Mimer is a genius and far better suited to the role than she is, but the king roars that she's almost 18 and loves the kingdom more than he ever has. He turns away and snarls he won't die. He'll exterminate every demonkin and Q-mankin and settle their debts. He finishes with a thunderous proclamation. After that, you'll dominate the entire country. He explains she's the Beast King's daughter, and even though she's not yet fully grown, he believes she'll rise to become the strongest Beast King, the most terrifying power to ever exist. So he entrusts the kingdom to her as he departs. Watching her father turn and walk away, the girl burns with a raw hunger for more power. He stormed into the grand hall, triumph blazing around him. He storms in and bellows to everyone that the time has finally come. He roars that they've suffered long enough. Humans trample their land without mercy, treating them like slaves. He bellows that many of their brothers still writhe in torture, rage boiling in his veins as he vows they must seize great power, the bonding technique and her strongest fangs, and tear their enemies apart to show them that the Beaskins, he'd earned the top perch. He spun to Leglos and demanded, "Did you send the declaration of war?" Leglos met his gaze and replied, "Done, exactly as ordered. This is Leglos King, the first prince of the Beastken kingdom." Another prince vows to muster his troops and annihilate the demon king at the border. The king snarls a warning not to be reckless, explaining that once the declaration is received, their enemies will rally to block their crossing of the border. The second prince, the Lion King, roars, "Even so, you'll stalk them like prey and hurl every last one into the abyss." He flung his hands to the heavens and bellowed, "Everyone, show the beast's power!" He roared that they, too, would cleanse the sorrow from their brothers' hearts. When the dust finally settled, the king thundered that they huddle, minds on fire, forging a ruthless battle plan to topple the demon king. The heroes' group surges eastward and pulls up to catch their breath and refresh themselves. Arnold declares they'll camp here tonight. They have to swing through the city first before heading to the prison. Soon his gaze snagged on something strange. The Rent cornered Harrow about what he'd done to Wysand, and Harrow snapped that he'd only used magic to clean their bodies. Hearing this, the room froze. The warrior confesses they're girls, only in part. Arnold immediately fires off a question. If the hero unleashes that magic at him while pointing, the boy responds. He flat out refuses. The man reels back, stunned, and demands why. Hire snaps that Arnold is riddled with impurities. A voice sliced through the man's argument. Hyro unleashes his magic, slashes sleep across the air, and the glowing word slams into the man. With a single searing spell, Hyro sends him crashing to the ground. He's already out cold. Harrow admits he only knocked him out because he wouldn't stop making noise, and barks that everyone else needs to sleep too. The forest held its breath. Everyone had already surrendered to rest. Everyone froze. Okamura didn't. He grinned, convinced this was the perfect time. Itching for another round of testing his magic, he scrawls, "Sleep" on the old man barely snatches a second to scrawl it onto someone else. The evidence forces the conclusion that some physical condition must exist to write directly on living beings, and he snaps his head around, noting this. The spot felt right. A shimmering glow blazed ahead, and he took it for a large crowd. A blaze of fireflies ignited around him as he edges closer, and the strange sight grabs him. Tucked in the group, odd little creatures scuttle, and he wonders if they're or spirits. In that heartbeat it hits him. They've made him their novice, and the fairies are spirits on a quest. They surge in to encircle the boy. One of them observes he's undeniably human, curiosity clawing at him. The protagonist. She snaps, "How am I supposed to tell he's not a bee-skin?" She bursts into laughter and snaps that it's plain as day. The ears on his head are real. Grinning, she proclaims that the spirits wield the divine gold of the races. A blank hit him. He'd never heard that word and couldn't grasp what she meant. One of them strides forward, voice laced with doubt as she spits. I'm not sure. Could he really be a humankin? She swears she's met a humankin before, but this one feels like someone else entirely. The boy leans in and snaps, What are you talking about? He beamed and shot forward the instant the fairies prodded him to ask her. Right then she explodes into spellcasting, her fingers sparking with a wild, unfamiliar magic. This tiny pixie summons a colossal. The fairy jabbed at the shimmering portal and revealed that stepping through would reunite him with his mother. The protagonist's jaw tightens as a thoughtful spark flickers. Are these fairies being She eyes him warily, keeps her distance, and warns that if he tags along, he could snag some valuable intel. He whipped his head to the side and spotted two tails snaking out from behind the trees. Sayani screams for him to come out, and the answer is microscopic, barely there. The little girl stammers an apology, pleading she hadn't meant to eavesdrop. She says she bolted awake to a ghostly silence. No one was there. The boy pleads, voice raw. Don't act alone at night. Doing so will drive the old man into madness. One fairy sneers that this race is bizarre, while another snaps, Take the girl with him! Snapping, the hero demanded where. The man shrugged, admitting he didn't know but felt no malice from the fairies who claim the portal will lead her to her mother. He snaps they don't have to wake the old man or the antenna-haired girl for this. He told her to hang back if nerves gnawed at her, but to come along if curiosity tugged. She nodded. They stepped through the portal, and a blinding flash burst before them. The boy slams a hand over his eyes, desperate to stop the light from blinding him. In a heartbeat, they're flung into a completely different place. At a glance, it bursts into view like a glittering fairy kingdom. Beaming, the little girl gasps, There are so many fairies! And one flutters forward to whisper, Follow this path. The fairies burst into a glittering welcome, circling them as they proclaim, This is the fairy garden. An uncannily human-looking princess locks eyes with him and asks, Are you from another world? Words barely out, Mir's voice hitched as she stammered about the question of another world. The hero flashes a grin, thanks them for the invite, and declares their recklessness doesn't bother him. Laughing, some fairies insist his judgment is flawless and swear they'd never invite a wicked soul. They snag their queen's attention and she snarls, Is he a humankin? Hesitation choking her voice, the queen stammers that She drops the bomb. He's from another world, born into a realm completely unlike theirs. The fairies stagger back, stunned, and the queen's voice slices through the shock. Show our guests respect, for now. Introducing herself, she proclaims she's the leader of the fairies and bellows her name. Nini Ahab of the fairy, Queenine. She leaned in, voice soft but insistent, coaxing them to spill their names and, posing as someone else, the boy throws out a fake name. She laughed, eyes flashing, and branded him a rascal for lying to her. In an instant, the boy locks eyes with Venda's Rastas, recognition slams into him, and he blurts his true name, Haro Okamura. A child strides forward and, voice ringing, declares her name, Muracastria. The queen beams, declares fate has thrown them together, and with a graceful sweep, beckons them to follow her to a far more comfortable place. Inside her home, she proclaims, This is Vania, a delicacy forged by fairies. Its drink is named Mernin. On edge, the boy suspected poison and slammed his ability into action. A sudden interruption ripped through his train of thought. The queen's voice slices the tension. Relax, it's not poisoned. Still wary, the boy fires back, that being far from familiar ground. Sharpen your senses. Caution is your best weapon. Countering, the queen declares that the bearer of the magical word doesn't need such caution, and the revelation sends the protagonist reeling. She declares she's the leader of the all-seeing race, exposing every lie with a glance and sensing inner states most people can't even see. A bolt of realization ripped through her. There's no way she should have known the magic word by instinct, and that shock confirmed she was one of the all-seeing race. He watches the spirits shrug off the mortal world like dust, and figures that even if she knew he was from another realm, causing trouble would win her nothing. Mid-bite, the boy exclaimed, the skin stung like a lemon, while the inside burst sweet as a strawberry and stretched like gum. He snatched up the drink, eyes narrowing. Could this be Mernin? A sweet peach scent blooms from it. He lifted the cup, took a decisive sip, then announced it was fruit juice bursting with crisp apple flavor. The quitting then bellows that it's wonderful and points out that humans have recently. He's been unleashing jaw-dropping feats, wielding the summoning magic of all thinnings. The camera snaps, claiming the king supposedly sacrifices his daughters to summon heroes, and it scoffs at the absurdity. Carrie reigns as the queen of heroes, so he flat-out refuses to blame them. When pressed, he snaps, "Obviously, I don't want to." He scoffs that he'd rather go it alone than spend a single moment with people he can't respect. The quinine smirks and, half-jokingly, quips that you should at least respect their current culture. The comment hit like a slap. The protagonist froze, swallowed by silence. In that heartbeat, the hero drops the act and admits he's clueless, maybe just sizing them up as useful allies. A child recoils, a sharp gasp ripping from them. The queen's eyes flash as she proclaims, "From what she's seen, new worlds are utterly fascinating." Once the last bite was swallowed, they slipped back into her shadow and followed her every step. This time they stand on Fairy's doorstep, the air crackling with tense expectation. The queen plunges a telepathic voice into Muir's mind, snatching her attention. She shoots a quick apology for the scare, then confesses she's been speaking straight into her mind and dares her to reply the same way. He clawed at fate, desperate to let the girl succeed. The queen then hisses, voice low, that it's better no one speaks of this aloud. She leaned in, voice sharp, and demanded, "Is something bothering you?" And whether it all springs from what the heroes said during their conversation. Muir's memory snaps to the sting of his own words. He'd told them he only saw them as useful people. The queen stepped forward and soothed her with a steady, unshakable calm. "There's nothing to worry about, it's completely fine," she said, adding that while his words weren't false, even their story was a patchwork of half-truths. Her brow furrowing, the girl blurts, "What do you mean?" The queen clamps a hand over the full story. She won't tell it. It would shred his dignity. But admits Hera never had a single friend his whole life, which is why he turned quiet and unsociable. He's a good person. Mira says he and her uncle dragged her out of danger when she and her uncle needed help, and she recalls other times he leapt in to save people. The queen laughed and declared it. She'd already slipped into his mind and read every thought. She reveals that a corner of his mind had been a dead, echoing void, but now it bursts with vivid images of her and their other companions. A grin splits the child's face as they lean in and fire off, "What does that mean?" The queen declares that Hyrule harbors a stubborn, volatile soul, and it probably hasn't even noticed yet. But affection for his companions keeps surging through him, growing stronger with every heartbeat. Hearing this, the girl explodes with joy. The queen laughed, eyes glittering, leaned in and whispered to her, "This stays between us, our little secret." The queen flips the conversation and snaps, "Is anything else troubling you?" The little girl insists her group never lets her face danger alone, shielding her at every turn. The only thing that makes her feel alive is cheering them on. At that moment, the queen bellows, "Have I not realized my true power?" She closes the gap and snaps. He says it's okay, and vows there's no mistake. Raw power thrums inside her. Tears choking her, the little girl stammers that she's weak, battles to grow stronger, but she always ends up. He was left in the dust on every front. The queen jerks her hand away and declares she won't lie. The child must learn to believe in herself. Gripping her hands, she declares the girl is already growing stronger. She just has to believe in herself. That's the first step that kicks everything into motion. New Rhythm cried that it thrummed with warmth, and the queen revealed she'd slipped the girl a sliver of magic, hoping it would be a powerful boost. For now, the girl didn't need to know what that meant. The queen's motherly gaze softened as she leaned in and softly implored the child to never forget her words. A tiny thrill lights Mira up, and she nods, agreeing. Moments later, the portal rips open and the queen calls after them, "You're leaving already? Wait, I have something I must give you." She proclaims the ring is the fairies' token, proof of their trust, and insists Orn must be thrilled to have met the boy for the first time. The queen's eyes flashed as she vowed to bestow one more gift. She hurls a crackling bolt of arcane energy. It surges into the protagonist's body, sinking into his flesh, and he staggers, stunned. The queen declares this has forged a bond between them. Shishirism vowed they'd meet again and snarled, "If you ever cross paths with the King of Spirits, tell him I send my regards." Beyond the portal, the boy reels, wide-eyed, snapping, "I need an explanation." They tumbled back into their world. Morning was already blazing across the horizon. Arnold barks at Hyro, eyes snagging on the odd frozen look on his face, and snaps, "Why don't you go wash your face?" He demanded why Mira looked so wrecked. The annoyed boy snapped at the man to shut up, and a bewildered Arnold shot back that if the two somehow slept, what in the world were they doing all night? At the city nearest the Beeskin Kingdom, passion explodes in another town. Inside the establishment's belly, the redhead bellows about war. The lieutenant warns rumors say soldiers are closing in on the border. She proclaims the kingdom thinks they're the perfect match to face the demon kings. Really, the crown is already massing soldiers at the border. A massive wave of volunteers surge toward it. She chokes out that the only thing left is to pray everyone stays safe. Outside the establishment, the protagonist fires a single urgent question at the old man. "What's the plan?" The redhead snaps. "War or no war, we're charging straight for passion. It's our destination." The hero shouts he's starving and suggests they meet at the inn to stay the night. Arnold sighs, envy burning, because the boy never seems to worry about anything. The boy snaps back, insisting he knows the man needs to go to passion, demanding what that has to do with the honey, and insisting he grabbed the honey for a reason. The redhead bursts out that he'd kept it secret. There are two people he has to see in a blaze of passion, and one of them craves the honey. A grin lights his face as the child declares he wants to meet that person. Arnold beams and shoots back that he's glad to hear it, though truly he's meeting her for the child's sake. Mira's voice cut the air as she demanded, "What do you mean by that?" He locks eyes with the camera and grins. She'll have to find out for herself. Then pivots, tossing the topic aside. "Before we meet at the end, we need to head to the guild first." He pushes to register them as a team, declaring it will split XP evenly after every victory and unlock high-ranking missions. And the protagonist says, "Fine," then shrugs, totally indifferent. Later, the city's guild burst into action. Right then, the hero's mind snapped awake as the truth slammed into him. He's let his guild card sit untouched for ages. The card branded the boy rank B. Arnold gapes, disbelief burning. How did he even claw his way up to this rank? The hero crowed that he single-handedly crushed the red spider while the old man slept through the whole fight. The man spits, "Are you proud you stole your rank with nothing but cheating magic?" The protagonist leans in and presses the old man for his rank. The man stammers that he's rank C, and the boy sneers, barking for him to hurry and register as a team while jeering, "Mr. Rank C." The next day, Arnold planted himself before Gris Cave, resolve roaring in his chest. They swear it's the ultimate shortcut to passion. Then trouble erupts, and the hero snaps, "What's wrong?" The man warns they're likely to run into monsters above rank B, and that the entrance may be wide but the passage squeezes tight inside, so they can't bring the heat peaks with them. The hero presses, "No other shortcuts?" The man sneers, "There are, but they're longer and crawling with even deadlier monsters." Cumber shrugs, insists the path's fine, and snaps that if they're racing to Bison City, they have to go through here. He scoffs that the man should be grateful he's even agreeing to the plan, then slaps the label Rank C on him. He ruffled the creature's fur, thanked it, and told it to carry his regards to Max and the others as they parted. Caked from head to toe in the animal's droppings, the protagonist snaps, "Can something be done about that bird?" Grinning wildly, the redhead crows that the bird's totally smitten with him, while the boy's face darkens with raw irritation. Y then announced, translating the bird's chirp, "It wants to follow Hyrule. It's drawn to him because he smells like sunlight." Baffled, the boy wrinkles his nose and fires off, "What's that smell?" Seeing they've come this far without a single complaint, he smirks and hands them a parting gift. Magic crackled from his fingertips as he branded the word "please" onto each of their foreheads. One of them bolts forward, legs a blur as they rocket away. Shock crackled through the room as the redhead demanded, "What did you do to the birds?" Okamura admitted he wrote something to dispel their fatigue, but it surged far stronger than he'd ever expected. After everything they have survived, they plunge into the cave's dark maw. While exploring, the redhead grinned and declared the birds would have been deafening. Inside the cave, he barked a warning, "Careful, don't slip!" He scaled the razor-steep passage and froze. One of those birds couldn't have squeezed through that narrow gap. Grinning, torch clenched in his hand, the warrior lets out a relieved laugh and says, "We're past that narrow stretch of the cave." He peers ahead and a cold shock rips through him. He'd spoken too soon. They must sprint across a splintered, swaying wooden bridge. Hyro flashed a cocky grin and declared, "No problem. I'll utter the magic word and rocket right over it." Grinning, the redhead beams that he can't wait to fly, but the boy snaps he never said he cast a spell on him. He frowns, mind racing, picturing himself scrawling FLY across them and somehow watching them plummet. He warns he can scrawl fly on himself again, but if the spell shatters, the others will plummet, and you'd have to write the word mid-fall. A near impossible shot. So crossing the bridge is the safer option. He channels a burst of magic and snaps to the Groot. I can already run! He scrawls connect on the trunk, bolts across the bridge, yelling it will only stay stable for a minute and they must sprint while it lasts. Arnold swallows hard and chokes out, Are you joking? Everyone bolts. At that moment, the Rent shoves the torch into the child's hands, hoists her up, and they sprint toward the far end of the bridge, and with a final brutal heave, everyone makes it across, and he crumples to the ground as his knees give out from sheer exhaustion. Sweat pouring down his face, he begs that he only wanted to fly, and the protagonist snaps to them, It's time to move on. Clutching the torch, he snaps he's spent enough time in the dark. Arnold, torch in hand, answers with full-throated agreement. Chimera cuts in. He'd already told him to keep the torch and lead the way. They pushed forward. Several hulking stone monsters erupted from the earth and lunged straight at them. Wielding his magic, the boy inscribes the words softly onto them. Right then, Inga and Arnold barreled into the group, tearing into every last one of them, after he tore through them, the torch still blazing in his fist. The man bellowed, I've found the X! The camera huffs. About time. He just wants to race to the next town and finally grab a bite. The redhead swears he just wants a bath, but they press the torch onward. They stumble onto something strange. A titanic serpent zeroes in on the group of heroes. They readied to pounce after the protagonist's claim that there's always a boss at the exit. Arnold snarled. This was the clay viper, a rank amongst... At that moment, the giant snake coiled like a living spring, fangs bared and muscles knotting as it readied to strike the group. And with one final beat, the video drops to black. If you don't want to miss the next part, stay glued to the screen. Smash that notification bell. Hours vanished into Todd's channel.